Chapter 491. The fourth elder was overjoyed, and a hint of joy appeared in his eyes. This girl was only an earth spirit, he only needed to slap her to death. After defeating her, he would still be the fourth elder of the Ning family, and Ning Yuan could marry Ning Exin. However, the fourth elder narrowed his eyes and turned to Xianxia, who was watching the show from the side. Godly Dr. Xianxia, I believe that with your high prestige, you will not do anything to cover up. In the arena, a fair duel. The loser will have to fulfill his promise. I only hope that at that time, godly doctor, you will not do anything that does not match your status. After all, this kind of thing had been listed here. More than 10 years ago, Xianxia had defeated the young master of the medical city in the arena. In the end, it had attracted the crazy revenge of the medical city. As for him, in order to be safe, he had warned Xianxia in advance, in case this old man was unreasonably protective. Don't worry, I'm not like those bastards from the medical city. Other than the two sides of the competition, no one else is allowed to interfere in the challenge. Xianxia looked at the fourth elder with a mocking smile. However, I also hope that you won't go back on your word. Xianxia had great confidence in Yun Luofeng. Since this girl had accepted the challenge, it meant that she had the confidence to win. All right. The fourth elder's gaze turned to Yun Luofeng and he smiled coldly. Yun Luofeng, let's begin. As soon as he finished speaking, a large blade appeared in front of the fourth elder. A sharp hurricane blew around his body, and his snow-white hair danced in the wind. He looked like a real madman. Under normal circumstances, he would never draw his blade in battle. However, this time, he could only win. He could not lose. As such, he took out his weapon and slashed down at Yun Luofeng's head with a loud bang. The entire courtyard was turned into ruins by his slash. Smoke and dust rose in all directions, covering the entire courtyard. Yuaner, it's all over. The fourth elder wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and turned to look at Ning Yuan with a weak smile on his face. Very soon, Ning Exin will become your wife. He believed that under his full-strength attack, Yun Luofeng had no chance of survival. Just when he thought that Yun Luofeng was dead for sure, a hand suddenly landed on his shoulder. Who is it? The fourth elder frowned slightly and suddenly turned around. At that moment, his eyes met with a pair of smiling eyes, and his expression froze instantly. How is this possible? He had used all his strength in that attack. Furthermore, he had clearly slashed his blade towards Yun Luofeng. Why was she unharmed? The fourth elder's tightly clenched fists trembled slightly. He took a deep breath and his expression was extremely ugly. Yun Luofeng, I really underestimated you. Although I don't know how you dodged my attack. However, your luck won't be so good after this. Boom. The fourth elder's fist was mighty and fierce as it met Yun Luofeng's beautiful face with a loud bang. At such a short distance, his opponent was unable to dodge at all and could only face his fist head-on. Yun Luofeng indeed didn't dodge. She raised her hand and unhurriedly clenched it towards fourth elder's fist. Ha! The fourth elder laughed maliciously and spoke cruelly. Yun Luofeng, based on your earth spirit strength, you can't block my attack. And you can't possibly have such good luck every time. Chapter 492. What was the meaning of extreme joy turning to sorrow? The fourth elder quickly sensed this feeling. Just as his fist was about to reach his eyes, Yun Luofeng's hand easily and tightly gripped his fist. A wave of energy suddenly leapt into his mind and fiercely struck his soul. This attack caused his mind to go blank. When he came back to his senses, he suddenly felt a huge pain in his chest. Following that, his old body flew out fiercely and fell on the icy cold ground. Elder Fourth coughed out 2 mouthfuls of blood. His gaze towards Yun Luofeng was no longer filled with contempt. Instead, it was filled with seriousness. Little girl, I've truly underestimated you. Not only did you manage to escape my attack, but you also possess a secret skill. If I'm not wrong, you should have learned a soul attack type of cultivation technique. Unfortunately, no matter how many trump cards you have, there's still an even greater difference between a heavenly spirit cultivator and an earthly spirit cultivator. Elder Fourth crawled up from the ground and laughed icily. His feet gradually left the ground and slowly rose into the sky. This difference is that after becoming a heavenly spirit cultivator, one can fly in the sky. Therefore, the difference between you and me is too great. As long as I rise into the sky, I can attack you. However, you can't attack me. A complacent smile hung on his face as his eerie gaze stared down at the people on the ground. Because his gaze was focused on Yun Luofeng, he did not notice the strange looks in the eyes of the people around him. Heavenly spirit cultivator? Yun Luofeng curled the corners of her lips. Her smile was demonic and stern. The insolence in her eyes was fully displayed at this moment. Do you think that you're the only one? What? Elder Fourth was stunned. He clearly did not understand what Yun Luofeng meant by this. However, before he could understand, he was shocked silly by the sudden turn of events. The young girl who had been standing in the courtyard suddenly rose into the sky and appeared in front of him in the blink of an eye. Before Elder Fourth could return to his senses, Yun Luofeng's legs swept out with a sharp gust of wind. With a loud bang, the old man's body fell from the sky. At this moment, Elder Fourth's mind was in a daze. Even when his body fell to the ground, he still had not recovered from his shock. She was a celestial spirit practitioner? When did this happen? He could still remember that a few months ago, this young girl was only a beginner earth spirit. In just a few short months, she had become a heavenly spirit warrior? Bang! The fourth elder's body heavily smashed into the ground, creating a deep pit. He lay in the pit with a dull look in his eyes as he stared blankly at the azure sky. At this moment, he thought back to the words he had said before the battle and realized how ridiculous they were. So it turned out that she didn't accept the challenge out of disdain and not out of fear. Father! Ning Yuan turned pale with fright. His face was filled with anxiety, and his forehead was covered with cold sweat. Yuan? Ning Yuan's voice brought the fourth elder back to his senses and he clenched his teeth tightly. Ning Xian hadn't married Yuan, or yet, he couldn't just give up like this. If he couldn't escape today, he would drag Ning Xian down to hell with him. Only then could Ning Xian become Yuan's wife. Thinking of this, the fourth elder dragged his heavily injured body out of the deep pit and quickly rushed towards Ning Xian. Chapter 493. Ning Xian, if Yuaner and I die, I also want you to go to hell to be Yuaner's wife. Just as he finished speaking, the figure that was like a whirlwind had already arrived in front of Ning Xian. His eyes revealed a cruel light. He understood that it was impossible for him to defeat Yun Luofeng. If that was the case, then he could only let Ning Xian be buried with him. It was better than Yuaner being alone. Be careful. Yun Xianxia held Ning Xian's hand tightly and pulled her into her embrace. She used her back to face the fourth elder and raised her robe, enveloping the young girl's body. At the same time, another figure shot over like a sword. When Yun Xianxia finished her action, she was already in front of Ning Xian. Puchi. The fourth elder's fist contained a strong killing intent as it heavily struck the youth's chest. The youth's extremely weak body was directly thrown out by his attack as blood flowed uncontrollably from his mouth. Immediately, the fourth elder was stunned. He raised his head in astonishment and looked at the youth who was blocking in front of Ning Xian. His voice trembled slightly as he asked, "Why?" "Father." Ning Yuan smiled faintly. That smile was very weak and filled with endless sorrow. "Don't hurt Ning Xian, Yuaner, I'm doing this for you. Can't you see it? These people will not let us go. But you haven't taken a wife for so many years because of Ning Xian. I just want her to become your wife. Why did you save her?" The fourth elder's eyes were about to split open as his old body trembled violently in the wind. His eyes were also spewing out raging flames as he could not help but roar at his son. He had done all this for him. Why did he have to be so rebellious? "Father, even if that's the case, I don't want her to suffer any harm." Ning Yuan smiled slightly. "Sorry, I've disappointed you." After saying that, his body seemed to be unable to bear a heavy burden as he leaned backwards. His eyelashes trembled slightly as he slowly closed his eyes. "Yuan!" The fourth elder roared in grief. His body quickly flashed and appeared in front of Ning Yuan. He quickly caught the youth's body and said sorrowfully, "Yuan, wake up. Don't scare Daddy. Daddy was wrong." Hurry up and open your eyes and look at me. Alas, the young man closed his eyes and did not make a sound. His punch just now had already broken the young man's heart meridian. Even if the great firmament immortal came, he would not be able to save him. The fourth elder faced the sky, and his heart-wrenching voice reverberated above the Ning family for a long time. Even if you hate me, I will let Ningxin accompany you. The fourth elder's heart was filled with anger and hatred. He gently put down Ning Yuan's corpse and looked at the girl in Xianxia's arms with a sinister gaze. Ningxian, my son is so devoted to you. Why don't you accept him? He gritted his teeth, full of hatred. I believe that in this world, there is no man who treats you better than my son. But you bitch, you actually didn't want such a good man and insisted on choosing Xianxia. What right do you have to reject my son's love? Elder Ning's face darkened as he stared coldly at the fourth elder. Ning Yuan is indeed a good child. Unfortunately, he has a father like you. Otherwise, he wouldn't have fallen to such a state. Shut up. The fourth elder had gone completely crazy. He turned to look at Elder Ning and said angrily, if it wasn't for your Ning family, Yuana wouldn't have died. You are the murderers who killed him. I will kill you all to avenge Yuana. Chapter 494. Elder Ning glanced at him. Firstly, you're the one who killed your son. Secondly, I'd like to see how you're going to destroy my Ning family. Nonsense. Fourth elder's face turned hideous as he roared, the one who killed him is someone from your Ning family. If it wasn't for saving Ningxin, he wouldn't have died. So, I'll drag all of you down with me. Ha! As he spoke, fourth elder's aura suddenly became fierce. His body gradually expanded, causing the pressure in the air to drop, making it hard for everyone to breathe. He's going to self-destruct. Elder Ning's face changed. Furthermore, it's not an ordinary self-destruction, it's the self-destruction of his soul. Everyone knew that the self-destruction of a martial artist would cause severe injuries to the people around him, especially when fourth elder's soul was self-destructing. How strong was the power of the soul? If he really did detonate himself, then amongst the people present, only Xianxia would be able to escape this calamity. Even Elder Ning would be severely injured by this. Therefore, after sensing fourth elder's aura, Elder Ning's face turned grave. Self-destruction of the soul will result in the destruction of the soul. Is it worth it? Under normal circumstances, very few people would self-destruct their soul. This was because if the soul was gone, how could one talk about reincarnation? If there wasn't a deep hatred, no one would risk having their soul destroyed just to kill their enemy. However, the fourth elder understood that if it was just an ordinary self-detonation, with Xianxia and Elder Ning's strength, they would be able to block the damage for everyone present. For this reason, he was willing to sacrifice his soul to send Ningxin to accompany Ning Yuan. Ningxin, I really don't know where you get your charm from to make Yuan give up his life for you. But this is the end for you. I won't let Yuan walk alone. Then he lowered his head to look at Ning Yuan's corpse. The evil smile on his face gradually disappeared and was replaced with gentleness. Yuan, father can't accompany you anymore, but father will send Ningxin to accompany you. You must grasp this opportunity well. Even if my soul is destroyed, father will fulfill your wish. Undeniably, fourth elder's personality was the complete opposite of clan leader Ning's. Patriarch Ning was willing to give up his daughter for the sake of the family, but the fourth elder had committed countless mistakes. But his feelings for Ning Yuan were real. All of you, go and atone for your sins. The fourth elder's aura became more and more intense, and even the air around him became a formless storm. Under the storm, his white hair danced wildly in the wind. His face became ferocious once again, and the viciousness in his eyes was like a dagger dipped in poison. Anyone who was looked at by him would be poisoned to death. Pucci. Suddenly, a muffled sound came from the fourth elder's body. Then his bulging body flattened like a punctured balloon. He turned around in a daze and looked at Yun Luofeng, who had unknowingly appeared behind him. He trembled as he asked, "What did you do to me?" Facing the fourth elder's stunned expression, Yun Luofeng smiled lazily, "Don't forget, I am a doctor." As a doctor, he naturally knew all the acupoints and characteristics of the human body. Thus, at that moment, he used a silver needle to pierce the fourth elder's acupoint and stopped him from self-destructing. Xianxia looked at Yun Luofeng in astonishment, and the shock in his eyes deepened. As a doctor as well, no one was clearer than him what Yun Luofeng's actions represented. After all, even he had been unable to successfully stop a self-destruction. Chapter 495. The fourth elder closed his eyes in despair. He knew that he had no hope of revenge this time. Since that was the case, he would wait for his next life. In his next life, he would make sure that all of these people were buried with him. Yun Luofeng Ning family. He opened his eyes and sneered, "When I get to the next life, I will come find you and make you pay with your blood." Blood for blood? Yun Luofeng curled his lips. "Sorry, you won't have the chance." The girl's voice was arrogant, causing the fourth elder to fly into a rage once again. But this time, before he could speak, a violent force came out from his body and fiercely struck his internal organs. Even his soul felt a pain as if it had suffered a heavy blow. "What did you do to me?" There was no need to think about it. The fourth elder knew that this woman must have done something to him. Yun Luofeng glanced at him evilly. "I just sent the power of your self-destruction back into your body. I didn't make it disappear." In other words, she had sent the power of the fourth elder's self-destruction back into his body. In other words, he couldn't make his soul self-destruct, but he would still have his soul scattered. "You're such a vicious woman. You will definitely die a horrible death." The fourth elder had gone completely mad. He had failed to self-destruct, yet he still had to bear the consequences of his soul scattering. If it was anyone else, they wouldn't be able to bear it. "I originally wanted to hand you over to second uncle, but unfortunately, you charged straight into my hands." Yun Luofeng smiled evilly as he leaned against the tree beside him. "So, you brought this upon yourself." An intense pain came from within his body. The fourth elder's face contorted as he let out a mournful roar. "Yun Luofeng, a vicious woman like you will definitely not have a good ending." Puchi. A mouthful of blood spurted out. The fourth elder staggered and fell heavily to the ground. He sucked in a breath of cold air and stared hatefully at Yun Luofeng with a twisted face. "Second uncle." Yun Luofeng did not look at the fourth elder anymore. She turned around and walked towards Xianxia, raising her eyebrows. "Ning Xian's body is still a little weak. Take her back to your room to rest first. Let the Ning family handle the matters here." "All right." Xianxia's lips curled into a faint smile as her cold gaze gradually fell on Ning Xen. "Xen, I'll take you back to your room." Ning Xen bit her lips and nodded slightly. She looked at Yun Luofeng as if she wanted to say something, but in the end, she turned her head and followed Xianxia into the backyard. In the end, she didn't say the word, "thank you." However, she would remember everything that Yun Luofeng had done for her. She would never forget it. Elder Ning let out a heavy sigh. The fourth elder left him here to destroy himself. His soul will soon dissipate. As for Ning Yuan, it's a pity. If he wasn't the son of the fourth elder, he would definitely be a good seedling. Ning Yuan's nature was not bad. It was just that he was pampered by the fourth elder. That was why he became so lawless. However, if he were to be nurtured from a young age, he believed that he would change very well. Unfortunately, Ning Yuan was the fourth elder's child, so he had buried his life. At the thought of this, Elder Ning shook his head regretfully. Bury Ning Yuan later. Because his father betrayed the Ning family, he does not have the qualifications to enter the Ning family's ancestral grave. As for the fourth elder, just find a mass grave and throw him away. Chapter 496. Yes, Patriarch. The servant cupped his fists and replied respectfully. It was night. The moon was as deep as water. Xianxia stood in the courtyard with her hands behind her back. Her cold gaze was cast towards the night sky as a faint smile appeared on her lips. Suddenly, a green cloak draped over his shoulders. He was slightly startled as he turned his head to look at the beautiful girl who had appeared behind him for some reason. Your body hasn't fully recovered yet, so it's better if you don't blow too much. Ning Xen smiled faintly. Brother Yun, what were you thinking about just now? Hearing this, Xianxia once again turned her gaze towards the night and sighed softly. I was thinking that if my brother and sister-in-law were still alive, they would definitely be proud of little Fenger's current achievements. Ning Xian turned her head to look at the man's side profile. She discovered that the man under the moonlight was extremely good-looking, his entire body emitting a dazzling light. Big brother Ning, would you like to hear my story? Hearing this, Xianxia retracted her gaze and said with a light smile, if you are willing to tell me your story, then I will listen. Big brother Yun. Ning Xian looked at the night sky and said with a bitter smile, actually, I am very envious of you. Your father is a true hero. Back then, he would rather let his son and daughter-in-law lead the troops into battle than give his daughter-in-law to the enemy's emperor as a concubine. This was a true man. If it was my father, perhaps his choice would be to give me away. When she said this, Ning Xian's tone was filled with sorrow. Because he once faced a choice, and his choice was the Ning family. It was unknown if it was because the sky was cold or her heart was cold, but Ning Xian tightly pulled at her clothes, and her lowered eyes were filled with sorrow. 10 years ago, the daughter of the Ning family's elder returned after several years of experience. At that time, the Ning family's madam was already my mother, and the elder's daughter had admired my father since she was young. When she found out about this, she flew into a rage. She wanted my father to cripple my mother and marry her. For the sake of the Ning family's peace, my father did not accept the elder's daughter's suggestion, nor did he reject her. For this reason, the elder's daughter believed that my mother was pestering my father. In order to be my father's wife, she beat my mother to death. Ning Xian took a deep breath, clenching her fists tightly to suppress the anger in her heart. However, even so, her heart still trembled uncontrollably. That's right, that woman didn't poison or assassinate my mother. She just beat my mother to death in public. Because she knew that her father had a very high prestige in the clan. Even if she killed my mother, my father wouldn't do anything to her. Xianxia turned to look at Ning Xian. He had thought that he had lived a miserable life, but Ning Xian's experience was not much better. Even though she was the eldest young lady of the Ning family, she had to watch helplessly as her own mother was beaten to death. What kind of pain was that? Xianxia subconsciously reached out and hugged Ning Xian's shoulder tightly. Big brother Yun, that woman made the right bet. My father was devastated by my mother's death, but he didn't even have the courage to take revenge for her. Because that woman's father was the head of the Ning family's elders at that time. For the sake of the entire Ning family, he endured. After my grandfather found out about this, he rushed back to the Yun family to avenge my mother. He even took me away from the Ning family. Chapter 497. At the mention of Elder Ning, Ning Xian's expression softened. She said softly, Big brother Yun, even though my father is still alive, my grandfather is the only family member I have. He was afraid that if my father had other children, I would be wronged, so he let my father disperse the backyard. This is also the reason why my father has not taken a wife or concubine all these years. Actually, Ning Xian smiled faintly. The most manly thing my father did in his life was to marry my mother in the face of so much pressure. Of course, this was also because of grandfather's support. However, I hope that my mother will never get to know my father in this life. This way, his mother wouldn't be beaten to death in front of everyone. Big brother Yun, my father's feelings for my mother are very real, but his biggest flaw is that he pays too much attention to the family. Indecisiveness. Back then, when he found out that his mother had been beaten to death by that woman, he hated her so much that he wanted to kill her. However, he didn't dare to do so. Tell me, what's the use of a man who doesn't even have the courage to avenge his lover? Ning Xian raised her eyes and stared at Xianxia's handsome face with clear eyes. She pursed her lips slightly. Come back to the Yun family with me tomorrow. The man's melodious voice slowly rang in her ears, and she couldn't help but feel at ease. Big brother Yun, actually, I am very regretful in my heart. During the 10 years that you needed to accompany me the most, we did not get to know each other. Ning Xian gently held Xianxia's hand and said with a smile, if only we had known each other at that time? 10 years. How painful was it to hide alone in a dark secret chamber for 10 whole years? As for her, she was not by his side at that time, nor did she accompany him through this most difficult period of time. Now that she thought about it, Ning Exen felt a wave of heartache, and the hatred she felt towards the medical city grew deeper and deeper. At that time I was just a cripple. Xianxia shook her head and said with a bitter smile. Big brother Yun, Ning Exen's eyes were filled with sincerity. Whether you are a cripple or a healthy person, I, Ning Exen, will never leave your side in this lifetime. I won't leave until the day you no longer need me. She loved Yun Xianxia, nothing else. After all, before this, she didn't know Yun Luofeng's strength at all, nor did she know that he had a powerful backer. In a situation where she didn't know anything, she was heavily injured for Yun Xianxia, which indirectly proved that her love for him was pure. Even if this man was a cripple, she would still move forward and never retreat. Yun Xianxia's eyes moved as she stared deeply at the beautiful girl in front of her. He was a normal man, not a cold-hearted man. All these years, Ning Exen was the only woman he had interacted with other than his family. Now, this woman was infatuated with him. Even if his heart was made of stone, it would melt. Ning Exen, it looks like I should call you second aunt from now on. As their gazes met, an evil voice rang out from behind them. There was an obvious hint of amusement in that voice. Yun Xianxia hurriedly retracted her gaze and coughed twice. Her handsome face was tinged with embarrassment. Xiaofeng, why are you here? Yun Luofeng slowly walked forward, his lips curling into a playful smile. His black eyes sized up the two people in front of him. Come and meet my future second aunt. Chapter 498. Her words were filled with obvious flattery, causing Yun Xianxia's handsome face to turn even redder. Second uncle, when are you going to marry Ning Exen? Yun Luofeng seemed to feel that the awkwardness between the two of them was not enough, and continued to speak in a mocking tone. Little Feng, Ning Exen smiled faintly, right now, it's just my unrequited love. Once big brother Yun accepts my feelings, I will immediately marry her. She would not force Yun Xianxia, nor would she use kindness to threaten him. She would only wait for the moment when he was willing to accept her feelings. Yun Xianxia looked at Ning Exen with a complicated expression. I am a man. As a man, I should protect my own woman. However, I am still not strong enough. When I am strong enough to protect her, I will marry her. Ning Exen's heart suddenly skipped a beat as she looked at Yun Xianxia in surprise. Did brother Yun mean that he had accepted her feelings? But it wasn't time to marry her yet? Big brother Yun, I'll wait for you. After stabilizing her mind, Ning Exen's heart calmed down, and the smile on her face became even more moving. No matter how long it takes, I will wait for you. Second uncle? Yun Luofeng seemed to have sensed something and frowned slightly. What you mean by that is, Yun Xianxia looked at Yun Luofeng. I want to go to the forest of no return. The forest of no return, no return. Anyone who entered the forest of no return would die without a doubt. However, Yun Luofeng did not expect that Yun Xianxia would actually want to go to that place. Are you sure? She raised her eyebrows and asked. I'm sure. Yun Xianxia's expression was unprecedentedly solemn. Little Feng, you only know that there are no returns to the forest of no return, but you don't know that there are also a few people who were able to leave the forest of no return safely. Those people have all undergone a huge change in their strength. If I want to grow up as soon as possible, I must go to the forest of no return. This was also the reason why he was unwilling to marry Ning Exen. It was precisely because he was afraid that if he couldn't return from the forest of no return, he would implicate Ning Exen for the rest of her life. Second uncle, you have to think about it carefully. If you think about it carefully, I will support whatever you do. However, you have to understand that me, grandfather, and Ning Exen, we are all waiting for your return at the Yun family. You must come back to us alive. Yun Xianxia lovingly rubbed Yun Luofeng's head, her eyes filled with endless gentleness. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. I'm only going to train in the outskirts of the forest of no return. I'm definitely not going in. For your sake, I will also ensure my own safety. All right, Yun Luofeng's furrowed brows relaxed. Before you go to the forest of no return, I'll prepare some spiritual medicines for you, just in case. Xianxia's lips moved slightly. He had thought that Yun Luofeng would definitely not agree to his decision, but he didn't expect that she would actually approve of it. He heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. If Yun Luofeng really did not agree, he would still think of a way to go to the forest of no return. Only with sufficient strength could he protect the Yun family. And he didn't want the same thing to happen again. Big brother Yun. Ningxin raised her head and stared at Xianxia intently. I'm also waiting for you at the Yun family. You have to come back alive. If you are unable to return to the Yun family, then I will guard you for the rest of my life. Xianxia smiled bitterly and said, Xenu, little Fenger and my father. Please take care of them. Don't worry, big brother Yun. I will take good care of the Yun family for you. Moreover, as long as I am alive, no one is allowed to invade the Yun family. Chapter 499. The girl's eyes were firm, and her delicate face was solemn. Unless she dies, she will not allow anyone to invade the Yun family. Second uncle, do you want to go back and see grandfather before you leave? Yun Luofeng said after thinking for a while. No need. Xianxia shook her head. If he finds out, then I won't be able to leave. No one knew the old master's character better than him. If he knew that he was going to a place like the Forest of No Return, he would definitely not let him go. Thinking of this, Xianxia paused for a moment. Little Fenger, I will set off for the Forest of No Return tomorrow. You guys can go back to the Yun family and wait for me. He must personally avenge the Medicine City. Only then would he be able to relieve his years of pain. All right. Yun Luofeng nodded lightly. She understood Xianxia's thoughts very well. If she had been hurt for so many years, she would not want others to stand up for her. Instead, she wanted to rely on her own hands to take revenge. It's getting late. I'll go back and rest first. You two take your time to chat. Yun Luofeng's lips curved into a smile. He tactfully turned around and left, leaving this space to the two of them. He believed that tonight, they would have many things to talk about. At this moment, Yun Zhao's cold and callous face appeared in her mind. She wondered how that fellow had been recently. Had he left the secret realm? However, she believed that it wouldn't be long before Yun Zhao returned to look for her, Long Yuan country. In the hall of the general's residence, old Master Yun looked at the betrothal gifts that filled the entire hall with a headache. He rubbed his temples and said in a low voice, You still haven't found out the origin of these betrothal gifts? Yi Ling shook her head. I made the fallen Maple Pavilion's people go and investigate, but they still couldn't find out who sent these betrothal gifts. So, I don't know who proposed to Master. Sigh, the old man sighed helplessly. Sure enough, before one wave has subsided, another wave rises. I wonder when Fenger will return. Just as the old master finished speaking, a servant hurried in from outside the door and reported respectfully, Master, eldest Miss and Miss Ningxin have returned. What? Master Dongfang suddenly rose to his feet, his wrinkled face filled with joy. Ningxin is all right? That's great news. Let's go and welcome Fenger. After saying this, he strode out of the door. With just a glance, he saw the two girls crossing the threshold and entering. One of them was a young girl dressed in a white robe. She was devastatingly beautiful and her beautiful face had an evil smile on it. Her pitch-black eyes stared unblinkingly at the old man in the courtyard. The other girl was beautiful and had a dignified demeanor. She stood quietly beside Yun Luofeng, her bright eyes filled with smiles. You're back? The old man stopped in his tracks and quietly watched the two people walk into the general's mansion. After a while, he finally said this. By the way, where's Xianxia? The old man was startled when he didn't see Xianxia. He frowned and asked. Second uncle has gone out to gain experience. He'll probably only be back after a while. Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a faint smile. She did not reveal Xianxia's true identity to prevent the old man from worrying. If he knew that his son had gone to such a dangerous place, he might not be able to sleep well in the future. Out to gain experience? Master Yun was stunned but did not think too much about it. His tightly furrowed brows gradually relaxed. Fenger, you're back at the right time. I have something to tell you. Chapter 500. As the old man said this, Yun Luofeng saw the wedding gifts that filled the hall. She unconsciously raised her eyebrows and asked, "Someone in the Yun family is getting married? Is it Qingyan and Yiling?" The old man hesitated for a moment, then asked weakly, "These gifts are for you." Yun Luofeng frowned slightly. "These gifts are for her?" After a moment of silence, she raised her head and looked at the old man. "Do you know who sent them?" "I'm not sure." The old man shook his head. "Even the people from the Windfall Pavilion can't find out where these gifts came from." "Is that so?" Yun Luofeng curled the corners of her lips and slowly walked towards the gifts. In that instant, an imposing aura surged from her body and her slightly raised eyes were filled with condescension. "If that's the case, then burn them." Boom. As soon as she finished speaking, a flame formed from spiritual power surged out from her palm. The flame quickly rushed towards the betrothal gifts. In an instant, the betrothal gifts were all turned into ashes. The young girl dusted her hands and turned to look at the dumbfounded old man. She smiled and said, "This way, the matter of the gifts has been resolved." The old man fiercely gulped. It seemed that his granddaughter was more domineering, unlike him who had hesitated for so many days over these gifts. "Ha!" The old man laughed heartily. "Xiaofeng, let's go. Tell me what happened in the Ning family so I can be happy." The old man understood his granddaughter's temper very well. Since she had returned, it meant that the matter of the Ning family's fourth elder had been resolved. Since that was the case, he could rest assured and listen to Yun Luofeng's recount of what happened in the Ning family, so that he could brag about it in the future. However, the old man only thought that Yun Luofeng had violently abused the fourth elder. He never thought that the little girl following behind Yun Luofeng would have such a powerful identity. What was even more unexpected was that Yun Luofeng and Tianyo were old friends. After hearing everything, the old man was dumbfounded on the spot. He stared with his mouth agape and couldn't recover for a long time. Inside the inn, the man had his back to the door as he quietly listened to his subordinate's report. After a long while, he finally reacted and a smile appeared on his handsome and demonic face. "You said that Yun Luofeng burned the gifts?" Reporting to the young master, "I saw it with my own eyes. I have come to report this to the young master." "It's fine," Bai Su smiled and waved her hand. "You may leave." "Yes, young master." The guard cupped his fists and stood up from the ground. He turned around and walked out of the room, closing the door behind him. After he left, the entire room regained its tranquility. After a long while, the man's playful voice slowly echoed, "This Yun Luofeng is much more interesting than her mother." At this moment, the beautiful woman who was standing beside the man pursed her lips slightly and looked at the man's handsome face with a complicated gaze. "Master, I Bai Su," said. Bai Luofeng, Bai, Xian said. Luo Bai, Yun, that's right." Bai Su raised her eyebrows and stroked her chin. "Because I realized that this woman is useful to the Bai family." The beautiful woman was a bit surprised. "Young master, Yun Luofeng is only the general's granddaughter. Why would she be useful to the Bai family?" "She's very talented." Bai Su's eyes narrowed. "She's the same kind of person as me. If I'm not wrong, the reason why the Xiao family had attacked the Bai family was because this woman had plotted against us. That's why I'm interested in her." Chapter 501. It had been a long time since he had met a woman who could pique his interest. And this woman, her achievements in the future would be extraordinary. A person like Yun Luofeng is very dangerous. If we try to rope her in, we will not be able to control her. Only a handsome man will work on her. Bai Su's eyes carried a hint of a smile. After all, from the information I have gathered about her, this woman is infatuated with Yun Zhao's beauty and often teases him. For this, I can only sacrifice my own beauty. Young master. The beautiful woman pursed her red lips and her demonic eyes carried a hint of confusion. This subordinate thinks that young master is too attentive towards Yun Luofeng. She is only an ordinary person. Ordinary person? Bai Su glanced coldly at the beautiful woman. When I first met that woman, she was only a high spiritualist. She was not even an earth spiritualist. But how long has it been? She has already become a celestial spiritualist? With such talent, I'm afraid even I cannot compare to her. Yet, you say that she is an ordinary person? The beautiful woman's body trembled and her beautiful eyes widened in shock. In such a short period of time, she has become a celestial spiritualist? How powerful must her talent be? No wonder the young master is so attentive towards her. He did not hesitate to sacrifice his own beauty to make her return to the Bai family. But, thinking of the secret love that she had buried in her heart, the beautiful woman's face carried a hint of bitterness. Her heart felt as if it had been pierced by a needle. Nightfall. The general's residence was exceptionally quiet under the moonlight. Yun Luofeng sat in the pavilion and gently stroked Milk Tea's hair. Her slightly narrowed eyes flashed with light. This time, Xiaobai did not follow her back. Because Xianxia had said that he needed her help with something, she had brought him along. That was why she had lost a little follower behind her. Milk Tea, did you really see that person go to the inn? Milk Tea nodded her head. When Yun Luofeng had burned the betrothal gifts, she had felt an unconcealed breath. Because of this, she had secretly sent Milk Tea to follow that person. She wanted to use this to find out who had sent the betrothal gifts. Did you find out who that person was? Yun Luofeng frowned slightly and asked in a low voice. Just as Yun Luofeng asked this question, the surrounding air suddenly became thin. The light breeze intensified and the leaves rustled. Since you're here, come out. Her hand that was caressing the Milk Tea paused, and she still said without raising her head. I didn't expect you to be so vigilant. I really didn't misjudge you. A crescent-colored robe landed in front of the young girl. The corners of the man's lips curled up into a demonic smile. His smiling eyes stared at the young girl in front of him. The betrothal gifts from the Yun family were given by you? Yun Luofeng's voice was cold as he asked. Don't you think we are the same kind of people? Bai Su's smile deepened, and an evil light gathered in her eyes. If you're willing to marry me, I'll give you supreme glory. Yun Luofeng raised his head slightly. His black eyes were filled with a domineering light as they gradually landed on Bai Su. The glory I want, I will obtain it with my own 2 hands. Not given by anyone. Moreover, I don't think you have the ability to do so. I can't, but Yun Xiao can. Bai Su took a few steps closer to Yun Luofeng. His slightly narrowed eyes revealed a dangerous light. He waved his hand and grabbed her arm tightly. He then smiled coldly and said, Yun Luofeng, believe me. As long as I have enough time, Yun Xiao will not be able to defeat me. Chapter 502. Get lost. Yun Luofeng's expression sank. She flung her arm fiercely and flung his hand away. A loud cry escaped from the young girl's lips. Her eyes were filled with incomparable self-confidence and dominance, as well as disdain towards him. A dark light flashed in Bai Su's eyes and the smile on his handsome face slowly disappeared. He stared fixedly at Yun Luofeng and suddenly laughed icily. Everyone says that the eldest lady of the general's household is incomparably lustful and often takes liberties with the guards by her side. I had thought that I could make you join the Bai family as long as I could use my charm to trick you into joining the Bai family. Unfortunately, I was wrong. You are indeed different from those love-struck fools. Yun Luofeng raised an eyebrow, and then, in this lifetime, the only man she would tease was Yun Xiao alone. The more you reject me, the more interested I become in you. Bai Su's lips curled into a demonic angle once again. His crescent-colored robes fluttered in the night breeze and his jet-black hair danced in the wind, gently brushing past his handsome face. His voice carried an extremely seductive air as if it was luring people towards him. However, faced with such a handsome man, Yun Luofeng remained unmoved. She lazily rose to her feet from the pavilion and shot Bai Su a demonic look. Unfortunately, I have no interest in you. Once she had said her piece, she did not spare the man behind her another glance and walked towards the rear courtyard. When she was halfway there, she stopped in her tracks and said without turning her head, the young master of the Bai family actually trespassed into someone else's residence at night. If word of this gets out, I'm afraid the Bai family's reputation won't be good. Bai Su narrowed his eyes and the aura from his body became even more dangerous. His robes fluttered and his handsome features became incomparably sinister under the moonlight. Yun Luofeng, I will have you. His lips curled into an eerie smile and no longer had his demonic charm. He stared fixedly in the direction that the young girl had left as he spoke sinisterly. If I can't have you, I can only destroy you. He would not let anyone else have what he could not have. Hence, he could only destroy her. Young master. The beautiful woman had unknowingly appeared beside the man. She bit her lip and looked at Yun Luofeng's departing figure with a complicated expression. This woman. It doesn't seem like it's that easy for her to become a member of the Bai clan. Furthermore, when you weren't here, the Bai clan was hit hard. It was all because of this woman. Why did you? Bai Su did not say anything. Her gaze remained fixed in the direction where Yun Luofeng had disappeared. There was a look of contemplation in her eyes. Young master. The beautiful girl subconsciously clenched her fists, jealousy surging in her heart. Why wouldn't Yun Luofeng accept such an outstanding man like the young master? If it were him, he would definitely agree immediately. Let's go back. As Bai Su turned around, his sleeves fluttered in the breeze. The dark night made his eyes look even more profound. Bang! Yun Luofeng closed the door and was just about to turn around when a young boy wearing a snow-white robe appeared in front of her, causing her to freeze in place. The boy looked like he was carved from jade. His big, bright eyes shone brightly. His rosy lips were slightly pouting, and his voice was childish. Master, it seems like you're not happy to see me. Not happy? She was obviously scared stiff. Yun Luofeng recovered her senses with great difficulty. Xiao Mo, can you leave the Divine Grimoire space now? Chapter 503. Master. Bang. Little Mo opened his arms and rushed towards Yun Luofeng. His soft body fiercely collided into the young girl's embrace, his two short arms tightly hugging the slender waist in front of him. Ever since you broke through to the celestial spirit realm, I can appear in your world for a short period of time. He raised his cute little face, a brilliant smile on his tender face. Then when can you stay for a long time? Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and asked. This. Little Mo's finger gently tapped his lips, his blinking eyes filled with doubt. Actually, I'm not too sure. When Master breaks through to that realm, I'll naturally be able to sense it. Yun Luofeng gently stroked his chin, his black eyes filled with contemplation. At this moment, there was a bang and Qin Yen staggered in. Her delicate little face was as red as an apple as she panted and said, Miss, something has happened. What is it? Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and looked at Qin Yen, asking calmly. Miss, it's Zhonglinger. Zhonglinger? Qin Yen wiped the sweat on her forehead and said anxiously, she was captured by the Tian family. Yun Luofeng's expression sank little by little. Zhonglinger, as the vice-commander of the Flame Legion, had been out on a mission and had not returned for a long time. So she had been captured by the Tian family. I never thought that other than dealing with Tian Ku, there would be other people from the Tian family who would come knocking on our door. Yun Luofeng's narrowed eyes flashed with killing intent. However, I remember that Zhonglinger's mission this time has nothing to do with the Tian family. Why did she fall into their hands? Miss, it's like this. According to the other members of the Flame Legion who escaped, Zhonglinger's mission this time was near the Tian family. Unfortunately, she just happened to bump into the Tian family's team. Qin Yen took a deep breath and reported everything she had heard to Yun Luofeng. Within the Tian family's team, there was a person who was Zhonglinger's elder brother. Zhonglinger's elder brother? Yun Luofeng was stunned. Zhonglinger is from the Tian family? That's not right. According to the information I obtained, Zhonglinger is just a daughter of an ordinary family. When did she get involved with the Tian family? Miss, that man from the Tian family is Zhonglinger's half-brother. Speaking up to this point, Qin Yen was a little angry. She tightly clenched her small fists. That year, Zhonglinger's father was seriously injured when he was training outside. Fortunately, a young girl from a commoner's family saved him. Who would have thought that this animal would see that the young girl was quite beautiful? After he recovered from his injuries, he raped her. That girl wanted to commit suicide, but she was saved by her childhood sweetheart fiancé. Moreover, he didn't despise her and married her. Yun Luofeng laughed coldly. This is really the real-life story of the farmer and the snake. The farmer and the snake? Qin Yan looked at Yun Luofeng in surprise. Miss, how come this servant has never heard of this story? This story describes the situation of Zhong Linger's parents. Because you don't know if the person you save will bite the hand that feeds you. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows. So, I never save anyone unrelated to me. Qin Yan, you must remember, we are not saints. There is no need to pity others. Otherwise, the next mother of Zhong Linger will be you. Chapter 504. Qin Yan nodded and said solemnly, Miss, this servant understands. All right, you can continue with what's coming next. Yun Luofeng raised his eyes slightly and stared at the little servant girl standing in front of him. Previously, she had only asked the people from Luofeng Pavilion to investigate the background of the army members, but to respect their privacy, she did not investigate further. This was also the result of not knowing that Zhong Linger was from the Tian family. Qin Yan calmed herself down and continued, Miss, after that young girl was raped, she became pregnant. And those people from the great forces will be able to sense their own bloodline. Therefore, when that person from the Tian family passed by, he felt that the bloodline in Zhong Linger's body came from him. In order to not let the bloodline of the Tian family spread outside, the Tian family took Zhong Linger back home. Yun Luofeng raised the corner of his lips, and there was a hint of coldness in his eyes. After that, did the Tian family realize that Zhong Linger had no talent and chased her out of the Tian family? But after this meeting, they found out that Zhong Linger had broken through to the high spiritual realm, so they forcefully brought her back to the family? The Tian family was no different from the Xiao family. When the family's disciples were useful, they would bring them back home. If they found out that the disciple was useless, they would immediately expel her from the family, and she wouldn't even be worthy of inheriting the family name. Miss, you're right. This is indeed the situation. Qin Yan sighed softly, and her tone was worried. Qin Yan, Yun Luofeng stroked his chin and paused for a moment before saying, There's something I don't understand. When Tian Ku and Tian Yu came to Long Yuan country, why didn't they discover Zhong Linger's identity? The corner of Qin Yan's mouth twitched. Actually, the reason is very simple. Zhong Linger's father is only from the side branch of the Tian family, and there's still a gap between him and Tian Ku's and Tian Yu's direct bloodline. Maybe because of this, they didn't recognize Zhong Linger. Or maybe at that time, their eyes were on Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao, so they didn't notice Zhong Linger. I see. Yun Luofeng's smile was filled with a trace of evil. This evil lingered around her, making the whole room gloomy and terrifying. Qin Yan, call Yi Ling. Both of you follow me to the Tian family. Yes, miss. Qin Yan's expression immediately turned solemn, and her clear black eyes shone with a bright light. What about me? Suddenly, a small hand tugged on Yun Luofeng's sleeve. Then, the boy's pitiful voice rang out. Only then did Qin Yan notice the little boy who had been standing beside Yun Luofeng. She asked in surprise, Miss, whose child is this? Little Mo's eyes flashed a few times. He held Yun Luofeng's hand tightly. I am her son. Son? Qin Yan was petrified on the spot. Her mouth opened so wide that it could swallow an elephant. She stared at Yun Luofeng in disbelief. Young Miss actually had a son? But before Qin Yan could walk out of her shock, she heard the little boy's childish voice again. Mommy, when is Yun Zhao's daddy coming back? Boom. A bolt of lightning struck down from the clear sky, and the light smoke in the midst of the petrification was directly split apart, and its body was on the verge of collapse. It was too shocking. Miss actually had a child with Yun Xiao? Does the patriarch know about this? Little Mo. Yun Luofeng frowned and gave little Mo a warning look. Then, he turned his gaze towards Qin Yan. He likes to talk nonsense. Yun Xiao and I have only known each other for less than a year. How could we have such a big child? Chapter 505. Little Mo blinked his eyes and said with grievance, Mother, do you recognize me? You and father have known each other for many years. This time, he entered the Yun family because of you. You can't not recognize us. Yun Luofeng's face instantly darkened. The aura on his body gradually surged. He looked at little Mo darkly. Looks like you don't want to stay here. The girl's undisguised aura shocked little Mo. But for the sake of Yun Xiao marrying Yun Luofeng as soon as possible, he was going all out. Mother, you've abandoned me for so many years. You can't abandon me again. Little Mo cried out and hugged Yun Luofeng's thigh tightly. He cried bitterly, I've missed you so much these past few years. Yun Luofeng slightly narrowed his eyes. The dangerous aura became stronger and stronger. Little Mo was so scared that he shrunk his neck and looked at her pitifully. He was like an abandoned puppy, wagging his tail in front of his master and begging for mercy. Miss, Qin Yan finally broke out of her petrified state. She felt the aura on Yun Luofeng's body and hurriedly pulled little Mo to her side. Although you're the person this servant admires the most and this servant has always listened to your orders, he's still your son. It's not good to abandon him, Yun Luofeng softly sighed. Qin Yan, let's go to the Tian family first. I'll talk to you when I come back. Just as Yun Luofeng opened the door and was about to walk out, there was a bang. The old man who was hiding outside the door and eavesdropping stumbled into the room and fell on his face. Yun Luofeng's face darkened. What are you doing here? This. The old man touched his hair and chuckled. I heard a child crying, so I wanted to know what was going on. Xiao Feng, you're really something. You even hid the fact that you have a son from me. Are you purposely trying to prevent me from holding my great-grandson? Yun Luofeng felt a headache and rubbed his temples. I still have something urgent to do. When I come back, I'll use a blood test to prove that this guy isn't my son. If I say he's my great-grandson, then he's my great-grandson. The old man glared at Yun Luofeng. When he looked at little Mo, his expression turned into a smile. Good grandson, come and let me, your great-grandfather, hug you. Little Mo blinked and obediently called out, Great-grandfather, you can't let those bad people marry mother. She belongs to Yun Zhao's father. Ai, how obedient. Don't worry, great-grandfather won't let those people have their way. The old man chuckled as he pulled Xiao Mo into his arms and fiercely ravaged him. Feng, look at this child. He's so similar to you. My intuition can't be wrong. He's your son. Why don't you do a blood test right now? Yun Luofeng's eyebrows twitched. She scrutinized little Mo and couldn't find any resemblance between the two of them. This old man had gone crazy thinking about his grandson. Even a random kid on the street would look like her. Grandpa, I really have something urgent to attend to. We'll talk about the blood test when I get back. Yun Luofeng frowned slightly. Even at a time like this, she still wanted to reason with the old man. However, the old man only smiled mysteriously. Girl, you have a lot of wicked ideas. Who knows what will happen when you get back? So, when I came in, I had someone prepare 2 basins of water. You can do a blood test right now. Yun Luofeng's breathing became uneven. In the end, she chose to accept the old man's cunning suggestion. Chapter 506. Alright, let them come in. Just as she finished speaking, a servant girl walked in with a basin of clear water. She placed it on the table and retreated respectfully. Give me the scimitar, Yun Luofeng said as she extended her hand to Qin Yan. Yes, Mississippi, Qin Yan responded respectfully. Then, she pulled out the scimitar from her waist and handed it to Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng held the scimitar in her hand and gently slid it across her finger. Instantly, a drop of blood fell into the clear water. After doing all this, Yun Luofeng handed the scimitar to little Mo. It's your turn. Good, Master Luofeng took the scimitar from little Mo and said gently, you only need to cut it gently. It won't hurt. All right, little Mo replied obediently. However, no one saw the smile that flashed across his eyes the moment he lowered them. However, little Mo still pretended to be timid. He took the scimitar with trembling hands and closed his eyes as he slid it across his finger. Seeing little Mo's pale little face, Master Luofeng's heart ached. He hurriedly took little Mo's hand and breathed into his mouth. Yun Luofeng did not speak. Her eyes were fixed on the clear water on the table. Then, she saw that the drops of blood that had been separated on both sides seemed to be pushed forward by a force until the two sides met and fused together. Instantly, Yun Luofeng was stunned. The blood dripping was a success? How was that possible? How could she and little Mo have a successful blood dripping? Haha. Master Luofeng laughed heartily. His old face was full of excitement. This child and I hit it off so well. I've long said that he's my great-grandson. Feng, so you and Yun Xiao have already progressed to this level. I've been worried about you too. Yun Luofeng's face darkened. Little Mo is 5 now. If he's my son, did I give birth to him when I was 10? Master Luofeng thought for a moment and said, that's not impossible. Ordinary people cannot have children at 10, but you're a doctor. You can create too many miracles. If you say that you gave birth to a child when you were 10, I believe you. Yun Luofeng regretted letting little Mo leave the divine grimoire space and causing so much trouble. Follow me. She pulled Xiao Mo away from the old man's arms and quickly walked out of the room. Once she was sure that Master Dongfeng and Qingyan had not followed her, she threw his body fiercely onto the grass. She raised her brows and asked, Xiao, tell me, what's going on with the blood test? Little Mo rubbed his butt and pouted, Master, I'm the guardian of the divine book of medicine. I'm just a spirit, and as a spirit, I don't have blood. However, I've formed a contract with you, so I only used a little of your blood just now. In other words, those 2 drops of blood are mine? Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes dangerously. Little Mo, I didn't think you had this kind of ability. Tell me, how are you going to explain this to me? Little Mo felt wronged as he crawled up from the grass. It's all because of that bastard Baisu. He actually dared to have designs on you, Master. Hence, I had purposely pretended to be your son. My goal was to let the world know that you have given birth to Yun Zhao's child. In this way, Baisu, that bastard, would no longer pester Master. Chapter 507. Yun Xiao was not around, so he had to protect his master for him. He had to prevent a group of people with ill intentions from taking advantage of him. Seeing that Yun Luofeng didn't say anything, little Mo started chattering again. Master, Baisu is nothing. He can't be compared to Yun Xiao. He's just using you. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have lied. Is that so? Yun Luofeng raised the corners of his lips and his aura suddenly darkened. Then should I thank you for helping me get rid of those people with ill intentions? Of course. Xiao Mo placed his hands on his hips and his face filled with pride. Master, don't worry. Baisu won't bother you anymore. You're already pregnant with Yun Zhao's child. If he knows what's good for him, he'll give up on you. Even though Yun Luofeng's aura was piercingly cold, his beautiful face lit up with a smile. Since you've helped me get rid of this trouble, I should reward you. As such, I'll reward you with a month in the grimoire space. Xiao Mo's body trembled and his eyes filled with fear. Master, no. Remember, Yun Luofeng glanced at him darkly, you're not allowed to take one step out of the grimoire space for 1 month. Xiao Mo was so aggrieved that he nearly cried. He had been stuck in the grimoire space for so many years and was finally able to leave for a moment. In the end, he was locked up by his master for another month. It had been fine being unable to leave the grimoire space in the past, but now that he could leave, he had to continue to be locked up. How could he tolerate this? Master, I was wrong. Xiao Mo tugged at Yun Luofeng's sleeve and cried bitterly, I won't do it again. Please forgive me for the last time. You know you were wrong? Yun Luofeng gently lifted Xiao Mo's chin with his finger and narrowed his eyes. Do you dare to do this again? Xiao Mo shook his head and hurriedly made a solemn vow. Get up. Yun Luofeng waved her hand and lifted Xiao Mo up. She stared deeply at the little boy in front of her and said, I know you're doing this for me and Yun Xiao. You're afraid that Baisu will not let me go. However, you have underestimated him. That man has no feelings for me and only wants to use me. Even if he believes that I have a son, he will still pester me. Little Mo blinked and said apologetically, Master, did I cause trouble for you? At least you still know this. Yun Luofeng swept a glance at him. If I were anywhere else, in front of other people, you could pretend to be my son. But in the Yun family, you definitely can't. They are my family. I don't want any lies to haunt them. Master, I'll explain everything to your grandfather now, okay? Little Mo knew that she had gone too far this time, so her tone was filled with caution. Yun Luofeng shook his head. That old man is too old. He can't take this kind of torment. You made him fall from heaven to hell. How could he endure it? What's more, the blood test was successful. Even if you explain, he won't believe you. Master, I'm sorry. Forget it. Yun Luofeng looked at Xiao Mo again. Since he has misunderstood, let him continue to misunderstand. From now on, you are not allowed to act like this in the Yun family. In other words, it didn't matter what he did outside of the Yun family's territory. Only the Yun family. This was the pure land she wanted to protect. Xiao Mo's eyes brightened and she smiled brightly. Master, I understand. It's almost time for me to leave the divine grimoire space. I'll go back first and come see you tomorrow. Chapter 508. As he spoke, Xiao Mo's body gradually became transparent until it was blown away by the wind. My lady! Qing Yan had just arrived when she saw that Yun Luofeng was the only one in the courtyard. Xiao Mo, who had been dragged away by her, was nowhere to be seen. Miss, where's the young master? Qing Yan blinked her eyes in surprise. Could it be that he was silenced by you? Yun Luofeng glanced at Qing Yan. This glance sent chills down Qing Yan's spine. She hurriedly explained, My lady, I was just joking. It's really a joke. But it's strange, why has the young master disappeared? He's gone to attend to some matters. Call Yi Ling and we'll leave immediately. Yes, my lady. Qing Yan did not dare to ask any further and replied respectfully. Her priority now was to save Zhong Ling. At this moment, in an inn not far from Long Yuan country, the little old man was leisurely sipping on his tea. His wrinkled face was like a chrysanthemum flower, lit up with a smile. Ever since I tasted Yun Luofeng's spiritual tea, I've become much pickier. Aside from this spiritual tea, the other teas are not to my liking. Lin Ruobai rested her chin on her hand and asked in a bored manner, Old man, why did you want me to follow you here? If you have something to do, hurry up and finish it. I still need to go back and serve my master. Don't be in such a hurry, there's something that only someone with your physique can help me get. The little old man spoke in a leisurely manner. When I get the medicinal herbs, I'll give half to your master. Take it as a reward for using you for a period of time. Lin Ruobai pursed her lips. What about me? Am I just a free worker? Xiao Bai, I won't use you for nothing. This time, you'll get the most precious thing. That thing is much more precious than medicinal herbs. The little old man turned to look at Lin Ruobai and spoke seriously. Lin Ruobai's eyes lit up. What's that? Well. The little old man gently stroked his long beard and chuckled. That's a precious experience. You grew up on Mount Spirit God and have never come into contact with the rest of the world. I've brought you out this time so you can gain the experience of exploring. Isn't the thing you have the most? Before he could finish the word, precious, Lin Ruobai picked up a cup of tea and threw it at the old man. Bang! With a muffled sound, the little old man's head instantly swelled up, and the tea spilled all over him. He shook his head helplessly. Youngsters nowadays are really hot-tempered. I was just joking. Why take it so seriously? Lin Ruobai snorted coldly, turned his head, and did not look at him again. All right, Xiao Bai girl, I won't argue with you this time. We should welcome our guests. Guest? Lin Ruobai was stunned for a moment. When he turned his head to look, the door was pushed open, and a group of people dressed in green robes appeared in the room. The leader of those people was a middle-aged man. He cupped his fists and said respectfully, Uncle Tinya, I've finally found you. The little old man smiled faintly. Previously, I met two people who randomly called themselves uncles, and now there's another one. Why, is it popular to recognize relatives these days? The middle-aged man laughed awkwardly. Uncle Tianya, I'm a Tian Xian from the Tian family. According to seniority, I should address you as uncle. I've come here this time to bring Uncle Tianya home. This old man has always been alone. I don't have such a thing as a home. Please go back. Don't force me to take action. Chapter 509. Xianxia frowned slightly. These people were really like leeches sticking to him. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't get rid of them. Uncle Xianxia, how can you say such words? The Tian family is your family. This junior was ordered by the elders to find Uncle Xianxia's whereabouts. However, Uncle Xianxia has been hiding for so many years. It's really hard for me to find you. Xianxia smiled and took 2 steps forward. No matter what grudges Uncle Xianxia had with the Tian family, now that so many years have passed, it's time to resolve it. Resolve? Xianxia sneered. That year, if not for the Tian family scheming against me, my beloved woman wouldn't have left. Tell me, how do you think this grudge should be resolved? Uncle Xianxia, the Tian family is doing this for your own good. Since young, your talent is outstanding. How can an ordinary woman be compared to you? The Tian family only found the most suitable woman for Uncle Xianxia. Who knew Uncle Xianxia would be so hot-blooded and go against the order? In other words, the Tian family didn't do anything wrong. The one at fault was Xianxia, who asked Xianxia to not marry the woman chosen by the Tian family and be with a slut. That's right, in the eyes of everyone in the Tian family, the woman Xianxia fell in love with was a slut. Otherwise, why would she want to dominate Xianxia and not allow Xianxia to choose an easier path? Xianxia curled his lips and looked at the middle-aged man with murderous intent. Why should I listen to your Tian family's orders? What right does the Tian family have to order me? Just because I was a member of the Tian family? If that's the case, I'll just leave the Tian family. But why do you keep pestering me after I left? His eyes turned sharp. He no longer had that shameless face he had in front of Yun Luofeng. Uncle Xianxia, back then, you injured many people in the family in a fit of rage. Is that not enough to appease you? Plus, it was because the woman you loved didn't trust you enough that it led to the final result. Xianxia narrowed his eyes. In other words, it's all Fu Sheng's fault. That's right, it's all that woman's fault. From Xianxia's point of view, it was all that woman's fault for seducing Xianxia. Otherwise, Xianxia wouldn't have abandoned the Tian family. Xianxia was so angry that he laughed. If your wife was lying on the same bed with another man, would you misunderstand? If you misunderstand your wife, is it because you don't trust her enough? Of course, if the Tian family didn't knock him out, this wouldn't have happened. It was then that he began to study medicine diligently, all so that he would not be schemed against by others again. Uncle Xianxia's expression changed. Women are different from men. If a woman shares a bed with another man, no matter what happens between them, this woman must die. Men, on the other hand, can have multiple wives and concubines. That woman leaving you isn't the Tian family's fault. It's just that she's too jealous. Such a jealous woman, how could she be qualified to enter our Tian family? Impudent! Bang! Xianxia waved his hand, and instantly, a powerful force slammed into the middle-aged man's chest. His body was sent flying out of the room, and blood unceasingly flowed out of his mouth. Just as he was about to crawl up from the ground, the old man who had been sitting in the room had unknowingly appeared in front of him. With a lift of his palm, he was lifted up from the ground. At that moment, the little old man's expression was terrifying, and his gaze was frighteningly sinister as he stared at Xianxia. Who allowed you to speak to this old man like this? The middle-aged man wiped away the blood stain at the corner of his mouth. Uncle Xianxia, my father, is your biological younger brother. Are you going to act against your own nephew? Chapter 5:10. This was the reason why Xianxia dared to say such a thing. In the Tian family, his father was Tianxuan's only relative, so it was impossible for him to kill him. You're that bastard's son? The little old man grabbed Tianxuan's clothes tightly. I was just wondering why your name sounded so familiar. So you're his son. I've been so good to him since he was young, but he colluded with those people to plot against me. Bang! Xianxia once again flung Xianxia away, his eyes cold. Go back and tell that bastard that after I find Fu Sheng, I will go back and settle the score with them. Don't think that I've been tolerating you all these years. I just don't have the time to settle the score with you. And you all think that I've already forgiven the Tian family for what they've done, and use my name to stir up trouble everywhere. Xianxia was stunned for a moment. his face filled with anxiety. Uncle Xianxia, you can't lose your head because of a woman. Have you forgotten? That year, because of jealousy, that woman not only left you, but also secretly sent an assassin to finish you off. Hearing this, the little old man glanced at him with a smile that did not seem like a smile. His tone was indifferent, as if he had seen through everything. Are you sure that the person sent to kill me was Fu Sheng? Tianxuan's heart suddenly trembled, and a trace of panic flashed across his eyes. Could it be that Uncle Xianxia knew that the person sent to kill him was from the Tian family? Impossible. If he really knew about this, he would not have allowed the Tian family to run amok until today. He must be just trying to scare them. Uncle Xianxia, I'm sure that it was that woman Fu Sheng who wanted to kill you. My father had long seen that woman's evil intentions, so he helped others to do such a thing. We're all doing this for your own good. You can scram now. Tianxuan's expression gradually became impatient. Or do you want this old man to throw you out? But this old man has never held back. If you accidentally fall to your death, that bastard father of yours will definitely come after me. Tianxia gritted his teeth, steeled his heart, and waved his hand. Let's go. The moment before he left, Tianxia turned his head back to look at the little old man. There was a gloomy look in his eyes, but in the end he turned around and left without looking back. As he watched those people leave, Lin Ruobai took out a piece of pastry and put it in his mouth. He asked incoherently, Old man, why did you let them go? If he wasn't wrong, the old man did indeed exude killing intent in that instant. She didn't understand why he didn't kill them. Hee, the little old man sneered twice. The members of the Tian family won't live for long. Today, I still have other matters to attend to, so I'll forgive him for now. Once I'm done with my business, I'll properly settle the debt from that year with them. Seeing this, Lin Ruobai didn't say anything more and enjoyed the delicious desserts on the table. Have you guys heard? I heard that Long Yuan country's general's granddaughter, Yun Luofeng, has sent a letter of challenge to the Tian family, claiming that she will pay a visit to the Tian family soon. Just as the little old man turned around and was about to enter his room, a commotion came from downstairs, causing him to stop in his tracks. I've heard about this. It seems that the Tian family had captured her subordinates. Because of this, she sent a letter of challenge to the Tian family in a fit of anger. Speaking of which, what's the background of the Tian family? Why haven't I heard of them before? Letter of challenge? Tian family? The little old man's anger was ignited once again. He rushed into the room, picked up Lin Ruobai, and quickly ran out of the inn. Chapter 5:11. Old man, where are we going? Lin Ruobai was held in the little old man's hands and the wind blew past her ears. Her beautiful hair was in a mess, brushing past her delicate little face. To the Tian family. The little old man gritted his teeth and said, Lin Ruobai was just enjoying the food and didn't hear the discussion downstairs. Now that the little old man said those 3 words, she blinked her eyes blankly. Didn't you say you have something to do? Why are we going to the Tian family now? Isn't it because those bastards from the Tian family provoked our master? I'm going to support Yun Luofeng. Originally, he didn't plan to make a move on the Tian family so soon. However, those people were really daring to provoke Yun Luofeng. He had no choice but to go. But Lin Ruobai stretched out her hand in the direction of the inn. She was so wrong that her tears almost fell. My pastries? You should at least let me take them away. Tianya didn't care about Lin Ruobai's thoughts. He pulled her and ran forward. Because his speed was too fast, Lin Ruobai directly fainted in the air. Tian Mountain was where the Tian family was located. However, Tian Mountain was divided into many layers. Like a city, it was filled with people. The lowest layer was made up of ordinary people. The higher the layer, the stronger the power. As for the Tian family, they lived at the highest level. Miss, why do we have to send a letter of challenge to the Tian family and make it known to everyone? Qing Yan walked on the mountain road at the lowest level. She turned her head to look at Yun Luofeng in confusion, blinking her eyes curiously. In order to inform someone about this matter. Yun Luofeng's eyes slightly sank as he said, ever since Tianya left with Xiaobai, she didn't know where they went. If she wanted to inform Xianxia, this was the only way. This was the purpose of her letter of challenge. Miss, who do you want to inform? Qing Yan became more and more curious. She stared at Yun Luofeng without blinking. Facing the little girl's curious gaze, Yun Luofeng smiled mysteriously. You will know later. At the top of Sky Mountain, there was a mansion that towered into the clouds. This residence was luxurious and imposing, and it was the size of a city. It was unknown just how many disciples lived in this residence. At this moment, in the study room of the mansion, the old man stopped writing and frowned at the middle-aged man who came in to report. Xin, how is the matter? Is that old thing Xianxia willing to return to the Tian family? Father. The middle-aged man smiled bitterly. He said that he wanted to find the whereabouts of Fu Xing and wasn't willing to return to the Tian family. I think Tianya's heart isn't on our Tian family. Why not just give up? No. But the old man exerted strength in his hand, and the brush in his hand was broken into two. With a gloomy face, he coldly said, Tianya is a member of the Tian family. We must let him return to the Tian family. Father, Xianxia is so in love with that woman, fleeting life. Why don't we get someone to disguise themselves as her to seduce Xianxia? No, the old man shook his head. Xianxia is no longer the him from decades ago. His medical skills are brilliant now. No disguise technique can escape his eyes. Tian Xian fell silent. After a long time, he opened his mouth and said, Father, there are many outstanding people in the younger generation of the Tian family. We can nurture them. Why must it be Xianxia? The old man helplessly sighed. Xianxia is not only powerful, his medical skills are also brilliant. Even the Doctors' Association is below him. Such a person must belong to the Tian family, even if the Tian family has to obey his orders. Unfortunately, because he was hurt too deeply back then, he no longer cares about the Tian family. Chapter 5:12. By the way, Tian Xian seemed to have thought of something and asked, I heard that some time ago, Tian Haoqing from the side family brought back a young lady. This young lady had already entered the Tian family a few years ago. The result of the test was that her talent was mediocre and she would never be able to step into the intermediate martial practitioner realm. However, in just a few years, she has already become a high martial practitioner. The old man raised his eyebrows. Ask Tian Haoqing to bring this young lady to see me. His father. Tian Xian hesitated and looked like he wanted to say something but stopped. Is there anything else? The old man glanced at him and asked. Father, that young lady. Tian Xian frowned, is the servant of the lady of the general's residence in Long Yuan country. The lady of the general's residence is furious and has challenged the Tian family. The lady of the general's residence? How's her talent and strength? The old man asked disapprovingly. Tian Xian thought for a while and replied, her talent is not bad. She has already become an earth spirit at the age of 15. This was because only the Ning family knew about what had happened to Yun Luofeng in the Ning family. Furthermore, in order to prevent Yun Luofeng from attracting trouble, the Ning family had sealed off all information about her. That was why these people did not know that she had already become a sky spirit. An earth spirit is simply an ant-like existence. There's nothing to be afraid of. The old man smiled faintly. At that time, you can just find a branch family member who's an earth spirit to deal with her. A person with such a lowly status isn't worthy of the direct descendant of the Tian family. Yes, father. Tian Xian cupped his fists respectfully and strode out of the door. Not long after, a disciple of the Tian family walked in with a young girl. Beside the young girl was a middle-aged man, and the man's eyebrows were somewhat similar to the young girl's. The middle-aged man was a little excited. He never thought that the high and mighty master would meet him one day. The old man nodded slightly and said indifferently, This is your daughter? Yes, master. The middle-aged man hurriedly pushed the young lady and said anxiously, Ling Er, when you see the master, quickly kneel down. However, the young lady beside him did not move. Her lively eyes were now filled with coldness. Ling, kneel down. The middle-aged man shouted coldly and commanded loudly. Zhonglinger's lips curved into a mocking smile. Zhonglinger, do not kneel to the heavens or the earth. I only kneel to my master. Who do you think you are to make me kneel? Even though the middle-aged man knew that Zhonglinger had a stubborn temper, he didn't expect her to be so stubborn to this extent. He was so scared that cold sweat broke out all over his body, and he quickly kowtowed a few times. Clan head, this girl just came back to the Tian family a few days ago. She still doesn't understand the rules. Clan head, please calm down. This damned girl, not only was she courting death, she even wanted to implicate him. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have brought her back. Umph. The old man snorted and said expressionlessly, you really need to teach her some manners. Such a lack of etiquette. Moreover, a member of my Tian family, even if it's just a side branch, is much more honorable than that young miss of the general's mansion. Yet, you actually dared to recognize a lowly person like her as your master. It's obvious that you're willing to lower yourself. Zhonglinger smiled coldly. My master is much better than you people. If you catch me, my master will come and save me. At that time, she will definitely destroy your entire Tian family. Ha! The old man laughed out loud. Little girl, you think too highly of her. She's just an earth spirit, she can't threaten my Tian family. Chapter 5:13. Clearly, in the eyes of the old man, Yun Luofeng was just an insignificant existence. Zhonglinger snorted softly and turned her head away, not even looking at the old man. Little girl, the old man's eyes darkened a bit as he sneered. To be able to enter the Tian family, you should feel honored. No matter what, the Tian family's power is much stronger than the general's residence. You can only have a future if you contribute to the Tian family. Hearing the old man's words, Zhonglinger finally turned her gaze away and her lips curled into a mocking smile. I wonder how you want me to contribute to the Tian family? The elder's eyes flickered and he said with a fake smile, Little girl, your tibia is extremely poor. Theoretically speaking, it's impossible for a medium spiritualist to break through, but you've become an advanced spiritualist. Zhonglinger did not interrupt the old man, but the mockery on her face grew stronger and stronger. So, the old man paused for a moment before he continued, I'm guessing that you must have obtained some precious treasure that allowed you to break through so quickly. I wonder if you're willing to take out that treasure and let the head of the family reward you? This old man almost said that he wanted Zhonglinger to give the treasure to the Tian family. Sorry, Zhonglinger curled her lips and her eyes were full of mockery. I was able to break through to my current level because of my master's training. I don't have any treasure like you said. The old man's face suddenly darkened and he narrowed his eyes. Do you think I'm an idiot? What ability does Yun Luofeng have to help a person with such a poor bone to break through to the high martial artist realm? As a disciple of the Tian family, you're hiding something like this. Your sin is unforgivable. Tian family? When these two words fell into Zhonglinger's ears, hatred appeared in her eyes. My surname is Zhong, I don't believe in the heavens, and I'm not a disciple of the Tian family. Presumptuous. Slap. When the middle-aged man heard Zhonglinger's rebellious words, he slapped her. In an instant, her delicate and cute little face turned red and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. Rebellious girl, who allowed you to speak to the master like this? If it wasn't for me, where would you be in this world? Now that you dare to disobey, immediately kneel and apologize to the master. Zhonglinger clenched her fists and sneered, I'd rather not be born into this world than have a biological father like you. No, you're not worthy to be my father, you're just a beast. Shut. The middle-aged man stared at her and said, Your mother is just a village woman from the countryside. To be my child, it's your mother's fortune. Otherwise, with someone like you, you will never be able to step into the Tian family for the rest of your life. Now kneel down. Zhonglinger's eyes of Ling and Zhong of Ling linger of. The middle-aged man kicked Zhonglinger's knee. In an instant, Zhonglinger's knee suddenly fell to the ground. However, just as she was about to kneel down, she suddenly stopped an inch away from the ground. Her legs trembled, her face was pale, and sweat rolled down from her forehead, staining the ground in front of her. The old man looked at Zhong of Ling in surprise. He didn't think that under such a powerful attack, she would still be able to not kneel on the ground. This kind of perseverance was enough to shock people. Unfortunately, the old man didn't know that in the half a year in the Yun family, the army had received a devil-like training. In this kind of training, everyone had developed an incomparably strong perseverance. Chapter 5:14. Little girl, your willpower isn't bad. I wonder if you can withstand my coercion. The old man smiled faintly. Then, the aura from his body expanded and filled the entire room. Under such a powerful coercion, the middle-aged man and the other disciples of the Tian family could no longer hold on and fell to the ground. Only Zhong Linger was still struggling to hold on. She used all her strength to support herself on the ground and bit her lips. Instantly, the smell of blood spread from her mouth and was swallowed by her. The old man's eyes gradually changed. Then, he shook his head regretfully. What a pity! You're a good seedling. If you had obtained that treasure and returned to the Tian family, perhaps your achievements would have been extraordinary by now. From the old man's point of view, Zhong Linger had such power because she had obtained some sort of treasure. She had no idea that her achievements were inseparable from Yun Luofeng. Furthermore, she had arrogantly believed that if Zhong Linger had not followed Yun Luofeng, her achievements would have been even greater. Bang! Zhong Linger's body finally could no longer hold on and she fell heavily to the ground. From the beginning to the end, her knees never touched the ground. Even in the end, she chose to let her entire body fall to the ground. Take her away. The old man waved his hand with an expressionless face. Also, you must obtain the treasure in her hands. With that treasure, even without Xianxia, the Tian family can still walk on the path of prosperity. Xianxia, aren't you very arrogant? If that's the case, then I will surpass you. Let's see how arrogant you can be when you face the Tian family in the future. Celestial Mountain. On a rugged and uneven mountain path, a young girl dressed in a snow-white dress slowly walked across the mountain path. Her feet stepped on the fallen leaves, making a rustling sound. Behind the young girl were two attendants, one male and one female. Both of them held long swords in their hands as they followed closely behind. Bang! Suddenly, the sound of a fierce battle could be heard from the road ahead. However, even after hearing the sound, the young girl remained unmoved. A lazy smile hung on her beautiful face. Master, it seems like someone is fighting. Qing Yen heard the commotion in front of her and raised her head to look at the young girl before her. Ignore them. Let's continue. Bang! Just as he finished speaking, a black figure fell from the sky and landed heavily in front of Yun Luofeng. The man in black's face was covered with a piece of black cloth, and his chest was dyed red with blood. His hands were tightly covering his injured chest, and he kept coughing out blood. Save me! The man in black looked at Yun Luofeng beside him, and his hoarse voice sounded intermittently. At this moment, a few men in robes descended from the sky. They looked coldly at Yun Luofeng, who was passing by. Little girl, I advise you not to meddle in other people's business. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. Facing this person's warning, Yun Luofeng's lips twitched. I'm just passing by. You guys can continue. Hearing Yun Luofeng's voice, the black-clothed man's eyes were filled with despair. However, his gaze quickly became resolute, as if he was ready to face death with equanimity. Brat! The man in robes burst into laughter. He then stepped forward and kicked the man in black fiercely. He then smiled maliciously and said, I never thought that you'd have such guts. You even dare to barge into the Tian family home. You should feel lucky that you've not disturbed the master of the Tian family. Otherwise, you would know what it means to live a life worse than death. The black-clothed man laughed icily. As long as I'm still alive, I will kill everyone in the Tian family and avenge my master. Chapter 5:15. Ha! Kill everyone in our Tian family? The man in robes seemed to have heard a funny joke and couldn't help but laugh out loud. The people behind him also laughed out loud. The way they looked at the man in black became more and more disdainful. After a long time, the man in robe finally stopped laughing and coldly said, With just you, I would like to see what ability you have to kill everyone in our Tian family. The man in black's voice was cold. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. If I didn't fall into your trap, I would have wiped out your Tian family long ago. No matter why you failed, a loss is a loss. In order to prevent you from living, I will send you to heaven now. Swish! The man in robe pulled out the long sword in his hand and pointed it at the man in black. Just as he was about to deal with this man in black, a hand suddenly reached out from the side and held the hilt of the sword tightly. The man in black was stunned and looked at the beautiful girl who was holding the long sword tightly. His eyes were filled with doubt. This girl obviously didn't want to meddle in other people's business. Why did she save him now? Yun Luofeng didn't know what the man in black was thinking. Her black eyes gradually fell on the man in robe. You're from the Tian family? That's right. The man in robe frowned and coldly said, since you know I'm from the Tian family, why aren't you letting go? Sorry. Yun Luofeng's lips slowly raised, forming an evil arc. The one I'm looking for is your Tian family. Boom. Yun Luofeng's fist suddenly shot out. With a punch, the man in robe's body flew out. Not sure if it was a coincidence or intentional, under Yun Luofeng's punch, the man's head hit the hard mountain rock. Suddenly, blood flowed out, overflowing the mountain stream. The others were scared silly. Only after a long time did they react. Trembling, they pointed at Yun Luofeng and said in horror, You actually dare to attack our Tian family's disciple? You're not afraid of death? I've said before, the one I'm looking for is the Tian family. Yun Luofeng glanced at him. Immediately go back and tell your Tian family that I, Yun Luofeng, am here to find them. Will they choose to obediently hand over the person, or let me wipe out the Tian family? Yun Luofeng? Hearing these 3 words, the disciples of the Tian family were shocked. None of them went to collect the corpse of the long-robed man. Instead, they hurriedly ran up the mountain. Qingyan Yiling, let's continue. From beginning to end, Yun Luofeng did not even look at the man in black. She continued to walk forward. Wait. The man in black climbed up from the ground and knelt on one knee. Miss, please accept me. Let me destroy the Tian family with you. As long as you agree to this condition of mine, I am willing to serve you for 3 years. Yun Luofeng's footsteps paused slightly. Without turning his head, he said, A few disciples of the Tian family have forced you to this degree. What kind of strength do you have to be loyal to me? Hearing this, the black-clothed man's face flashed with shame. He coughed twice and said, This? I didn't expect the Tian family to have so many traps. I was seriously injured because I was hit by those traps. Otherwise, those people wouldn't be my opponents. The Tian family is my enemy, but I agree with what he said earlier. A failure is a failure, no matter what the reason is. Chapter 5:16. A failure is a failure, no matter what the reason is. The man in black's heart trembled as he carefully pondered over Yun Luofeng's words. After a while, he suddenly had a feeling of clarity. Lifting his head, he stared deeply at the girl with her back facing him. Thank you for your guidance, I understand now. In the future, I will not fall into the enemy's trap. The man in black's eyes were filled with determination. However, I still ask you to accept me. For this, I can give up my life for you. Yun Luofeng finally turned his head and gently raised his eyebrows. You have a deep grudge against the Tian family? It's more than a deep grudge. The man in black's eyes suddenly became cold. I can't wait to drink their blood, eat their flesh, and dismember their bodies into 1,000 pieces. Miss, as long as you are willing to bring me to the Tian family, my life will belong to you from now on. Yun Luofeng gently rubbed his chin. If you want me to bring you to the Tian family, give me a reason that can convince me. Also, what did the Tian family do to you to make you so angry? That group of bastards, they bullied my master. The man in black clenched his fists. Unfortunately, master can't come to this place. Then I will come in her place. Yun Luofeng stared at the man in black and became silent. Master, did you feel it too? Within his soul, Little Mo's voice echoed, This man's aura is very weak. However, his strength isn't bad. Plus, I can feel that he doesn't have any treasure that can hide his aura. Under normal circumstances, if you follow someone whose strength is lower than yours, you can successfully hide your aura. However, if it's an expert, no matter how you hide, you will be discovered. However, this man in black was different. He was like a natural assassin, able to hide his aura in front of anyone. Even if it's someone stronger than him, he could successfully assassinate them. Master, if I'm not wrong, this man's talent is very special. Right now, it's still daytime. If it's nighttime, perhaps you won't even be able to feel a trace of his aura. Unfortunately, this time, he had accidentally triggered the mechanism of the Tian family and exposed himself. Otherwise, the powerhouses of the Tian family would very likely have died under his assassination. Your name? Yun Luofeng's lips curled up as he asked. The young girl's words delighted the man in black. He removed the black veil from his face, revealing an incomparably handsome face. Long Fei greets master. In order to avenge his master, he was ready to risk everything. As long as he could personally kill those bastards of the Tian family, not to mention selling himself for 3 years, he was even willing to do it for 10 years. Qingyan, bandage his wounds. We'll continue our journey after he recovers. Yes, Mississippi. In a luxurious room, an old man was resting with his eyes closed. Suddenly, a panicked voice was heard hurriedly. Patriarch, something bad has happened, something big has happened. Third Elder's lineage's disciple Tian Yu was killed by Yun Luofeng. What? The old man suddenly opened his eyes. With a bang, he slammed his palm on the wall beside him. Immediately, the entire wall collapsed. That woman actually dared to kill my Tian family's people. Did she really think that there's no one left in the Tian family? He actually allowed her to kill him? Let's go. This clan head will personally kill that woman and let her know the consequences of offending the Tian family. Chapter 517. On top of the towering mountain range, a majestic and imposing mountain gate stood there. The bronze luster seemed particularly heavy under the sun. Yun Luofeng stopped in his tracks. His pitch-black eyes stared at the bronze gate in front of him and coldly ordered, "All of you, get out of my way." Qing Yan and Yi Ling both took 2 steps back. Even though Long Fei was a little confused, he still followed them and took a few steps back. After they had taken a few steps back, a long sword appeared in front of Yun Luofeng. The sword floated in the air and emitted a cold light. The girl's eyes were arrogant and her face was expressionless. Her tone was domineering and there was a sound when she landed. Boom! As soon as she finished speaking, the long sword slashed down from the void and slashed fiercely at the bronze door. In an instant, a crack appeared on the bronze door. Then, the crack grew bigger and bigger, and it spread out. In the end, it suddenly split open. Under Long Fei's shocked gaze, it suddenly split open. Who is so audacious to destroy the gate of the Tian clan? Suddenly, a loud shout came from inside the gate. Not long after, a middle-aged man with a cold expression led a group of people out of the gate. His sharp gaze was directed at Yun Luofeng. "Where is Zhong Ling?" Yun Luofeng asked directly. Tianxian coldly curled the corners of his lips. Zhong Ling is a member of the Tian clan. When did she become acquainted with someone from the secular world like you? You are not qualified to ask a disciple of the Tian clan to come out, even if she is only a child from a branch family. From Tianxuan's point of view, Yun Luofeng did not have the right to associate with a member of the Tian clan. Since that was the case, why did he ask Zhong Ling to come out? Yun Luofeng had long been clear about the snobbish nature of the Tian clan. It could be seen from the harm that Xianxia had suffered back then. Therefore, faced with Tianxuan's mockery, Yun Luofeng was unmoved. He continued, "I am here to find Zhong Ling. If you are not willing to hand her over, then I can only kill my way in." In an instant, a strong murderous intent ignited on the girl's body. She slightly raised her eyebrows and her arrogant and unruly eyes stared coldly at Tianxian. Under the strong wind, her white dress fluttered even though there was no wind. Her domineering aura could not be ignored. "Ha!" Tianxian madly laughed twice. "I do want to see how are you going to kill your way into my Tian family. Men, take down these people who trespassed into the Tian family." "Yes, young master." After Tianxuan's words fell, The disciples of the Tian family drew their weapons and charged at Yun Luofeng. At this moment, under the strong wind, the young girl slightly raised her eyebrows and her fine black hair danced in the wind. Her black eyes were as calm as ever, so calm that it made one's heart tremble. Long Fei, finish this battle quickly. Her gaze pierced through the people of the Tian family and landed on the middle-aged man standing in front of the bronze gate. There was a hint of killing intent in her black eyes. Long Fei heard Yun Luofeng's instructions and quickly pulled out his weapon. Like a gust of black wind, he shuttled back and forth in front of the disciples of the Tian family. When the gust of wind blew past, many disciples fell into a pool of blood. Some people didn't even know how they died. This guy's speed is too fast. Xianxia slightly narrowed his eyes and a trace of surprise flashed across his eyes. Moreover, he is like a natural assassin. His aura is hard to capture. If this kind of person belongs to my Tian family, it will definitely make my Tian family stronger. Thinking of this, Xianxia did not bother about the disciples who had fallen to the ground and died. Instead, he made up his mind. Chapter 5:18. After all the disciples of the Tian family had fallen, Long Fei wiped off the bloodstains on his face. His cold gaze gradually turned towards the remaining Sky Xian. Clap, clap, clap. Xianxia's lips curled up as he applauded. Not bad, your strength is not bad. I don't know why you listen to Yun Luofeng, but it's such a waste for you to follow him. If you're willing to pledge allegiance to the Tian family, I can let bygones be bygones. How about it? From Xianxia's point of view, letting bygones be bygones was already very magnanimous. If Yun Luofeng were to reject him, then he wouldn't know what's good for him. However, towards Xianxia's intention to rope him in, Long Fei only sneered in disdain. Tian family? What is that? Why should I pledge allegiance? I came here to flatten your Tian family, yet you want my allegiance? Xianxia's heart was filled with anger as he pointed at Long Fei. You think killing a few Tian family's disciples will prove that you're invincible? You're too naive. There are countless experts in the Tian family. People like you can't fight against them. Expert? Long Fei glanced at Xianxia. You're talking about you? That's right. The middle-aged man raised his head arrogantly. I'm one of the experts in the Tian family. A few years ago, I became a low-level sky spirit warrior. You're just a high-level earth spirit warrior. How can you be my opponent? In the entire Tian family, his talent was not bad. Other than his father who had broken through to the intermediate sky spirit warrior, the elders of the Tian family were only low-level sky spirit warriors. However, he was only in his early 40s. There was a huge difference in age between him and those old farts. When he reaches this age, his achievements will definitely be greater than his father's. This was the reason for his arrogance. In this world, how many people's talent could surpass his? Although Long Fei broke through to the high-level earth spirit warrior at such a young age, many spirit warriors are stuck at this stage. Even if they had 10 years, they still wouldn't be able to break through from high-level earth spirit warrior to sky spirit warrior. Therefore, he didn't put the person in front of him in his eyes. As for Yun Luofeng, at the age of 15, she had already reached the level of a low-level earth spirit. Her talent was indeed shocking. Unfortunately, she would soon be buried here and no one would remember her achievements in the future. Unfortunately, Xianxia still believed that Yun Luofeng was still an earth spiritualist. If the matter of the Ning family spread, he would not dare to be so arrogant anymore. Long Fei didn't say much. A black shadow flashed and quickly appeared behind Xianxia. The scimitar in his hand slashed towards the back of Xianxia's neck. His eyes flashed with killing intent. However, Xianxia seemed to have eyes on the back of his head. When Long Fei slashed at the back of his neck, he suddenly turned around and waved his hand, sending a ray of light straight at Long Fei's chest. Struck by the ray of light, Long Fei retreated a few steps. The wound on his chest split open again. Blood bloomed like a rose, staining his robe. Master, should we help? Yi Ling frowned and turned to look at Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng shook his head. No need. He can handle it. He could handle it. These 4 words stunned Yi Ling, and the way she looked at Long Fei gradually became a little different. Since Master said so, It meant that this assassin's strength was far from that simple. He must have some trump card in his hands. Chapter 5:19. Kid, weren't you very arrogant earlier on? Xianxia raised his chin arrogantly and spoke sinisterly. Defeat me if you're so capable. Long Fei narrowed his eyes and a cold light flashed across his eyes. Without any hesitation, he quickly attacked Xianxia once again. You're still trying the same trick? Xianxia sneered disapprovingly. He instantly turned around and slammed his palm towards the man in front of him. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. However, just as his palm slammed into the man's chest, the man's body suddenly turned into a puff of smoke and disappeared. An afterimage? Xianxia was stunned. Suddenly, he felt that something was amiss. Just as he was about to turn around to block the sudden attack of murderous intent, it was clearly too late. The scimitar slashed across Tianxuan's neck. Blood spurted out and dyed his entire neck red. Kid, it seems that I've underestimated you. Xianxia took a few steps back and touched the blood on the back of his neck. When he saw that his hand was covered in blood, the murderous intent in his eyes intensified. You actually used an afterimage to deceive me and evade my sight. However, there's an obvious difference between a heavenly spirit cultivator and an earth spirit cultivator. Once he had finished speaking, Tianxuan's body rose into the air and stood in midair. In the beginning, he had thought that it would be easy to defeat Long Fei. That was why he had not used his flight. However, he never thought that this kid would be so difficult to deal with. Since that was the case, he could only fight him in the air. Xianxia laughed again as he looked down at Long Fei. If you're really that capable, let's fight it out in the air. If old Master Yun was here, he would probably curse at Tianxuan's shamelessness. As a heavenly spirit cultivator, he had actually allowed an earth spirit cultivator to fight him in the air? There weren't many people on this mainland who could be this shameless. Long Fei silently put his finger to his mouth and whistled. Not long after, the sound of birds chirping could be heard in the air. When everyone looked up, they saw a giant hummingbird flying across the sky. It was as fast as lightning and soon arrived in front of Long Fei. Long Fei gently rubbed the giant hummingbird's head. His eyes were gentle as he said, "Partner, I'm sorry. I didn't ask you to come with me to the Tian family. Now let us fight together." The great crested bird chirped happily when it heard the man's words. Long Fei leapt onto the bird's back and quickly rose into the sky. You asked me to fight with you in the air. Now that I'm here, I wonder if we can start? Long Fei's eyes were cold as he stared at Xianxia coldly. Xianxia's expression changed, as if he did not expect Long Fei to have a giant crested bird in his hands. But before he could say anything, the giant hummingbird screeched and launched an attack at the profound sky continent. Mistress Yiling was a little surprised. Since Long Fei has a flying spiritual beast, why was he chased so miserably back then? Yun Luofeng stared deeply at the battle in the sky and said, "This giant hummingbird isn't very powerful. Even if Yi Ling had summoned it back then, it wouldn't have helped. At most, one more person died. It still couldn't escape the Tian family's pursuit." At that time, Long Fei was seriously injured and couldn't fight like he was now. If he had really summoned the giant hummingbird, it would have attracted the heavenly spirit cultivator's pursuit. The outcome would have been the same. Chapter 5:20. Furthermore, spiritual beasts like the giant hummingbird were not very intelligent. It was equivalent to a flying mount and would only listen to its master's orders. It would not take the initiative to save people. Yi Ling nodded in understanding and turned her attention back to the battle in the sky. In the sky, the giant hummingbird's huge body crashed into Xianxia. The bird's cry was deafening and sounded like a thunderclap exploding in his ears. This was the giant hummingbird's ability. Even though it was not very powerful, its cry could disturb the minds of others and cause their ears to ring. Swoosh! At this moment, Long Fei's body left the giant hummingbird's back and appeared behind Xianxia like a bolt of lightning. At this moment, it was too late for Xianxia to use his spiritual energy to block the giant hummingbird's cry. Long Fei's leg fiercely kicked Xianxia's buttocks and kicked his body down from the sky. Immediately after, Long Fei also fell from the sky. His foot stepped tightly on Xianxia's back. With a loud bang, The two of them dug a huge pit in the ground and buried it deep inside. Dust and smoke rose in all directions and covered the entire mountain gate. Xianxia coughed dryly and slowly climbed out of the pit. His gloomy eyes stared coldly at Long Fei's stern face and snorted, "You've caused such a big commotion. You must have alarmed my father and the other elders of the Tian family. When they arrive, you will all die." Actually, Xianxia was already regretting in his heart. He should not have come out to show off. He should have lured these people into the mountain gate and used a trap to kill them. But who knew that Yun Luofeng would have such a person by his side, using the power of an earth spirit to fight him to a standstill? If news of this were to spread, he would definitely lose all face. That's right. In Xianxia's heart, he had only fought to a standstill with Long Fei. He would never admit that he had lost. Xianxia. Suddenly, an elderly figure appeared in front of him. After hearing this voice, Xianxia's heart was filled with excitement. He hurriedly looked at the elder who had just stepped out of the mountain gate and happily shouted, "Father!" Numerous elders of the Tian clan followed behind the old man. All of them were glaring at Yun Luofeng and the others with furious expressions on their faces. "Lady Yun." The old man nodded at Xianxia before turning to look at Yun Luofeng. He said calmly, "Don't you think you've gone too far? First, you killed my Tian family's men, and now you destroyed my Tian family's mountain gate. You even killed so many disciples. My Tian family did not provoke you, yet you did such a thing. Don't you want to give me an explanation?" Yun Luofeng's lips curled up, and his black eyes contained an evil smile. "I just want to know where Zhonglinger is. Since you guys aren't willing to tell me, then I can only use this method to see her. Zhonglinger is a member of my Tian family. Even if my Tian family wants to kill her, it has nothing to do with you. Aren't you meddling in other people's business?" The old man frowned and said indifferently. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows. "She is one of my people, so your Tian family cannot decide whether she lives or dies." "Oomph." The old man coldly snorted. "If that's the case, then let me see your strength." Seeing that the old man was clearly angered, Xianxia's eyes were filled with excitement. Father had finally decided to make a move. Let's see if these people still have the capital to be arrogant. Especially this woman, Yun Luofeng. She would not be able to withstand a single move from her father. But father only needed to use his aura to kill her in a second. Chapter 521. A strong wind rose in front of the mountain gate and the young girl's white robes fluttered in the wind. Her lips curled into a demonic angle as her pitch-black eyes stared straight at the old man in front of her. "All right." She responded to the old man's provocation with only one word. Compared to the old man's aggressive manner, her calmness was much more graceful. "Impudent." The elders of the royal family were enraged. They rubbed their fists and rubbed their palms together, eager to teach this arrogant little girl a lesson. Unfortunately, just as they pulled out their weapons, the old man's cold voice rang in their ears. "All of you, stand down." The old man narrowed his eyes and ordered in a stern voice. When the crowd heard this, they retreated behind the old man despite their unwillingness. "I will personally deal with this little girl." The old man's eyes filled with a stern aura as he stared at the demonic and languid young girl. He was so confident that he did not even pull out his weapon as he charged towards Yun Luofeng with great speed. How fast was a celestial spirit cultivator? By the time the crowd had regained their senses, he was already in front of Yun Luofeng. A swift and fierce wind whistled through the air, aiming straight for the young girl's peerlessly beautiful face. From the beginning, the young girl's eyes had remained calm, so calm that there was not a single ripple in them. However, when the old man's attack was right in front of her, the corners of the young girl's lips curled into an angle. This smile was evil and presumptuous. It was as if a cold and eerie aura had risen from the depths of the earth, causing everyone to tremble in fear. Boom! The old man gathered his thoughts and used all his might to attack Yun Luofeng. His attack was powerful and even the surrounding air froze in an instant. "Haha, Yun Luofeng, this is the consequence of bringing someone to provoke the royal family." Xianxia burst into laughter. From what he could see, Yun Luofeng would undoubtedly die under his father's attack. However, his smile soon froze and his eyes widened in shock. He stared in disbelief at Yun Luofeng, who had suddenly disappeared into thin air. His eyes were filled with disbelief. That was right. Just as the old man's swift and fierce attack was about to land, Yun Luofeng suddenly disappeared into thin air. As a result, the wind from his palms slammed into the ancient tree in front of him. Instantly, the tree collapsed with a loud bang and dust filled the sky. Where is she? The elders of the Tian family were also stunned. They couldn't believe that a living person suddenly disappeared just like that. However, right when everyone was extremely bewildered, a timid voice suddenly resounded from nowhere. All of you look, up in the sky. Isn't that Yun Luofeng? Hearing this person's words, everyone couldn't help but raise their heads and look at the azure sky. High up in the sky, the young woman stood with her hands behind her back, her white robes fluttering in the wind. It was as if she was the most beautiful scene in the sky, causing everyone to involuntarily hold their breaths. Heavenly spiritualist? Oh my god, she's actually a sky spirit esper, a 15-year-old. It's such a pity that this woman didn't belong to my Tian family. The elders of the Tian family were stunned. She could fly in the air. What did this mean? This meant that this 15-year-old girl was actually a celestial spirit practitioner. Who in the world could break through to become a heavenly spirit being at the age of 15? Among everyone, the one who was the most shocked was obviously Xianxia. His expression was stiff and his body began to tremble violently. Previously, he even said that for him to be able to become a celestial spirit practitioner at this age was already very good and that no one could be compared to him. Chapter 522. However, he had never expected a 15-year-old girl to possess the power of a celestial spirit practitioner. Xianxia. The old man's face darkened slightly. Didn't you say that Yun Luofeng was only an earth spirit? What's going on? Tan Xian smiled bitterly. Father, she was indeed a low-rank earth spiritualist a few months ago. I don't know what's going on either. But the old man swung his palm at Tianxian and coldly said, You don't know? You actually have the nerve to tell me that you don't know? Are you going to tell me that Yun Luofeng broke through from an earth spirit to a celestial spirit in just a few short months? Do you think I'm stupid? Even the reincarnation of a spiritual god would not be able to advance from an earth spiritual being to a heavenly spiritual being in just a few months. Let alone an ordinary human like Yun Luofeng? Therefore, it was no wonder that the old man would suspect Tianxian. I'll settle the score with you after I've dealt with this woman. The old man glanced at Tianxian gloomily as his voice was filled with a trace of coldness. After saying this, he turned to Yun Luofeng and coldly said, Lady Yun, your talent is indeed not bad. If you hadn't killed so many people from my Tian family, I would have the intention to rope you in. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows. Even if I didn't kill anyone from the Tian family, I will never join your Tian family. Even without Zhong Linger's matter, it's impossible for her to have any good impression of the Tian family. The reason was because of World's Edge. Although she didn't accept Xianxia as her disciple, Xianxia could at least be considered an old friend of hers. Thus, why would she join the Tian family that hurt Xianxia? Hee little girl, you are indeed very arrogant. Hearing Yun Luofeng's words, the elder laughed in anger. However, I don't know if you'll still be able to say such arrogant words later. Yun Luofeng glanced at Xianxia with a smile on his face. I'm in a bit of a rush, so why don't all of your Tian family's heavenly spirit practitioners come up together? That way, I can finish this quickly. Originally, the elder had already thought that Yun Luofeng's performance was arrogant enough, but now he realized that he hadn't understood him well enough. This young girl was arrogant to the point of angering both humans and gods. She's just a low-level celestial spirit being, so what makes her think that she can deal with so many celestial spirit beings on her own? What's more, there was an intermediate heavenly spirit warrior among them. Yun Luofeng, who do you think you are? How dare you not put my Tian family in your eyes? The elders of the Tian family couldn't stand the girl's provocation. Each of them was enraged and pulled out their weapons, glaring at the girl in midair. Yes, your talent is indeed abnormal. However, Do you think that you can defeat all the experts of our Tian family with your own strength? Aren't you being too arrogant? Patriarch, since she has already said so, what are we waiting for? If I don't teach her a lesson, she'll forget her place. Tian Xian's eyes darkened. He licked the corner of his mouth as a bloodthirsty glint appeared in his eyes. Father, I also request to fight. He had long wanted to make a move against Yun Luofeng, but after learning of her strength, he was frightened. But who would have thought that this young girl would seek her own death by challenging everyone by herself? Wasn't this a great opportunity for him? This isn't appropriate. Even though the elder's heart was burning with anger, for the sake of his face, he still spoke out to stop the crowd. There are so many of us bullying a little girl. If word gets out, where will the Tian family's face go? Chapter 523. Seeing that the elder had spoken, the crowd couldn't say anything else. They could only stare angrily at Yun Luofeng. Stupid girl, consider yourself lucky. If you're so arrogant next time, don't blame us for being impolite. However, in the face of everyone's words, Yun Luofeng raised the corner of her lips. Between her unruly brows, there was a shocking domineering aura. Don't waste any more time. Come at me all at once. I will finish you all in the time it takes to brew a cup of tea. The girl's tone was indifferent, but her words angered everyone from the Tian family. Master, don't speak up for this woman anymore. She's already so arrogant, we must teach her a lesson. For the sake of morality, our Tian family chose to fight one-on-one. I didn't expect her to be so arrogant. She still dares to say that she'll finish us all in the time it takes to brew a cup of tea? Yun Luofeng shook her head. No, I was wrong. I don't think I'll need the time it takes to brew a cup of tea. Half a cup of tea's time is enough. Boom. This time, it wasn't just the people from the Tian family, even the elder was angered by Yun Luofeng. Good, very good. I've lived for so many years and have met many geniuses, but none of them are as arrogant as you. If you really want us to attack together, then I'll satisfy your request. Men, kill this woman on the spot. Yes, master. Hearing this, the eyes of everyone from the Tian family lit up and they looked at Yun Luofeng sinisterly. Then, everyone's bodies rose into the air and stood around Yun Luofeng, surrounding her in a tight circle. Murderous intent spread from the void and a powerful pressure gradually spread, covering the entire sky. The pressure made it hard for those who weren't strong enough to breathe. Long Fei clenched his fists nervously. His eyes were filled with worry. Will Master be in danger? Even if Yun Luofeng's strength had reached the celestial spirit stage, the people she faced were all celestial spirit stage powerhouses. Especially when there was an intermediate celestial spirit stage powerhouse among them. How could she deal with so many people at once? Don't worry, Qingyan said with a smile. When you follow Master in the future, you only need to remember one thing. She never fights a battle she's not confident in. Since she said this, she'll definitely be able to do it. You only need to believe in her. You just need to trust her. Qingyan's words seemed to have magical power, causing Long Fei's heart to slowly regain its calm. Even he didn't know why, but at this moment he actually trusted this formidable young woman just like Qingyan and Qingyan. It was as if there was nothing in this world that she could not accomplish. The young girl smiled as she stood in the air. Her pitch-black eyes stared calmly at the people surrounding her. Under the murderous aura of so many people, her expression was as calm as ever. Her white dress fluttered in the wind like a white lotus in full bloom. I'll give you two a handicap. How about that? Arrogant, domineering. Not only did she challenge all of them, but she also declared that she would finish them off in half a cup of tea's time. Now, she even said that she would let them use both hands. How could anyone endure such blatant provocation? Therefore, after Yun Luofeng spoke, everyone from the Yun clan was enraged. They angrily dashed towards her with murderous intent in their eyes. Yun Luofeng's figure flashed and she dodged the fastest patriarch of the Tian family. Then she charged towards the rest of the elders. With a loud bang, her soul attack landed heavily on the other party's mind. Just as his mind went blank, her leg kicked fiercely towards his body, kicking him down from the sky. Chapter 524. She had used a lot of strength in that kick. Even if the other party wasn't crippled, He would be severely injured and lose the ability to fight. Following that, she used the same trick again. She dodged the Tian family's master's attack and only attacked the low-rank heavenly spiritualist elder. Not long after, all the elders were kicked down from the sky, leaving only the old man and Tian Xian in the sky. Who exactly are you? Tian Xian's body trembled in fear. He bit his pale lips and said, "Why were those elders defeated by you without any resistance? What did you do to them?" Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes and smiled evilly. "Won't you know what I did to them if you try?" Just as the fear in Tianxuan's eyes grew, a loud bang exploded in his mind. Before he could react, a leg fiercely kicked him in the chest. In an instant he felt a burning pain in his internal organs. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his body fell to the ground, unable to hold on any longer. Actually, Yun Luofeng didn't even need to use a soul attack to defeat these people. However, she felt that it was a waste of time, so she wanted to end the battle quickly. The old man's face was slightly pale. His tightly clenched fists trembled slightly as he stared at Yun Luofeng. "Little girl, I've really underestimated you. You can actually injure so many people under my attack." The elder felt very aggrieved, because after so many attacks, not a single one landed on Yun Luofeng's body. Furthermore, she had defeated so many of the Tian clan's elders under his attacks. This was clearly a slap to his face. At the thought of this, the old man felt a little pain on his cheeks, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. "You're the only one left." Yun Luofeng's gaze gradually turned towards the old man. He slowly walked towards him. "In order to save time, I dealt with the other trash first. Now it's your turn." Her voice was neither loud nor soft, but it came down from the sky. Hearing the girl's words, the elders of the Tian family were furious, but they had no words to refute. Who asked so many of them to be unable to deal with a young girl? "Hee," the old man sneered. "I'm an intermediate heavenly spiritualist. Even if I can't kill you, you can't kill me. How about this? Didn't you say that you would defeat us in half a cup of tea's time? There's still a bit of time left. If you can't defeat me in this time, then you'll lose." The old man paused, then continued. "If you lose, then kneel down and kowtow a few times and become a servant of the Tian family." "You of the Tian family." His voice drifted along the mountain path, causing Long Fei to widen his eyes. To widen them of his eyes. Wasn't this old man a bit too of him of to him of Tian of the of the Tian? Yun Luofeng glanced at the old man. "I, Yun Luofeng, never suffer a loss. To of long of the time. He was Yun of Yun. I of we've already wasted a lot of time talking. If you don't hurry up, half a cup of tea's time will be up." Chapter 525. Yun Luofeng smiled. "When I said never to lose, I mean I will never accept a one-sided bet. If I defeat you within the time limit, what will you pay?" "Ha," the old man laughed out loud. His eyebrows were full of confidence. "I'm at your disposal. I'm not interested in you." Yun Luofeng gently touched his chin. "Why don't you let everyone in the Tian family crawl from the top of the mountain to the foot of the mountain? With every step, you have to humiliate yourself. Of course, the more humiliating the words, the better. If the humiliation isn't strong enough, then you all have to start all over again." "You?" The old man's face changed. He viciously said, "Isn't this a bit too ruthless?" "This is only one aspect." Yun Luofeng smiled evilly. "The second point is that I want Zhonglinger to appear in one piece. If she loses a single hair, I will kill one person." The old man's face became uglier. His eyes flashed with darkness. "Yun Luofeng, I only made one request. What right do you have to make two requests? This is too unfair." Yun Luofeng blinked his eyes. "You also know it's unfair? If you think it's unfair, then we can change the way of the bet until one side loses. How about it? Plus, the second request I made isn't the bet. I'm just informing you all. If she wanted to kill someone, the Tian family wouldn't be able to stop her. Thus, this sentence was just to inform the Tian family and not the bet." The old man sneered. Yun Luofeng, you're really timid. You want me to change the way of the bet. Unfortunately, I won't do as you wish. I agree to your bet. Now, it's almost half a cup of tea's time. I want to see what you're going to use to defeat me. Even if Yun Luofeng defeated all the elders of the Tian family in a short period of time, it didn't mean she could defeat him in the following period of time. As for him, he only needed to dodge her technique. Try to delay for half a cup of tea's time. Also, don't forget, you said before that you don't need to use your hands to fight. The old man shamelessly added another sentence. Long Fei was angered by this old man. No wonder this old man could do such a thing in the past. Such shameless behavior was really incomparable. However, as the person involved, Yun Luofeng, smiled and said, "Sure." Looking at the young girl's confident eyes, the old man suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. However, the arrow was knocked on the bowstring, and he had no choice but to release it. He could not go back on his word. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and said, "If that's the case, then let's start the battle now." What? After saying that, the old man did not fight Yun Luofeng head-on. Instead, he chose to turn around and leave, fleeing into the distance. At the same time, Yun Luofeng's figure rapidly chased after the old man like a bolt of lightning. Seeing that the young girl was about to catch up to him, the old man hurriedly turned around and a sword light suddenly streaked across the void, rushing towards the young girl. Yun Luofeng's body moved to the side and she dodged this sword light. Because of this action, she once again widened the distance between her and the old man. The old man glanced at Yun Luofeng, who had caught up to them once again. The corners of his lips curled into a mocking smile. "Little girl, you're still too inexperienced to accept my wager so easily. I'm definitely going to win this bet." "Is that so?" Just as he finished speaking, a white silhouette suddenly landed before him and blocked his way. Chapter 526. The elder was stunned as he stared at Yun Luofeng in astonishment. His face was filled with disbelief. "How did you get in front of me?" This woman had been a distance away from him just now. How had she appeared in front of him without him noticing? Yun Luofeng stared at the elder's astonished gaze and shrugged her shoulders. "I was just messing with you earlier." She had given him hope and plunged him into despair. This was Yun Luofeng's revenge against the elder. Boom! The soul attack struck the elder's mind once again. However, the elder had already entered the intermediate stage of a heavenly spirit warrior after all. Hence, he recovered in the blink of an eye. However, in the blink of an eye, Yun Luofeng's leg had already landed fiercely on the elder's face, causing him to stumble back a few steps. Sparks flew in the air from the friction. "Yun Luofeng." The elder's face was ashen. "You know how to attack the soul?" This time, he had been too careless. He never thought that Yun Luofeng would not only be so fast, but also know how to attack the soul. No wonder so many people from the Tian family had been kicked out in the blink of an eye. Yun Luofeng did not answer the elder's question. Her figure flashed and she appeared behind the elder once again. In the instant that the old man turned around, another soul attack was unleashed. Then her leg kicked the old man's waist, causing him to howl in pain. What followed next was a one-sided trampling. Soul attacks were godly cheaters in the first place. Unless the elder's strength had reached the advanced stage of a heavenly spirit warrior, he would not be able to resist her soul attack. Unfortunately, because he was not strong enough, he would be hit every time Yun Luofeng unleashed her soul attack. It's about time. Yun Luofeng looked at the sky and no longer continued to trample on him. She directly kicked the elder's body into the ground. With a loud bang, the elder's body smashed into the ground, creating a huge pit. After the battle, countless deep pits had appeared on the mountain path. Each of the pits had a person lying in it, wailing in agony. "Why?" The old man dug his fingers into the soil as he glared angrily at the young girl who was slowly descending from the sky. He gritted his teeth and asked, "Why do you have to torture me like this when you've dealt with them all in one blow?" At this moment, the elder understood that Yun Luofeng could defeat him in an instant with that soul attack. However, she did not do so. Instead, she was toying with him like a cat toying with a mouse. Yun Luofeng stood in front of the old man and looked down at him. For one person. Before coming to the Tian family, he had already investigated everyone in the Tian family. This old man was the Tian family's patriarch and also Xianxia's biological younger brother. Yet, back then, he did something that harmed Xianxia. That was the reason why she was tormenting him like this. Her goal was to help Xianxia vent his anger. Long Fei looked at Yun Luofeng with a face of worship. He felt that he did not follow the wrong person this time. Even if his master found out, he would still encourage him to continue following behind her. I've already completed the bet on time. Yun Luofeng lifted his chin slightly. Now, shouldn't you fulfill your end of the bargain and make everyone in the Tian family crawl down the mountain on their knees? Suddenly, the old man laughed. His smile was filled with murderous intent as he said word by word, "Dream on. I'd rather die than suffer such humiliation. Furthermore, you can't kill me." Chapter 527. Yun Luofeng narrowed her eyes as she stared at the old man's confident face. The corners of her lips curled into an angle. "Are you sure?" Her 3 words were powerful and resonant, slowly echoing on the mountain path that was full of holes. The old man's eyes darkened a bit. He propped himself up from the big pit and coldly said, "Yun Luofeng, if you still want Zhonglinger's life, then kneel down and beg me. Maybe I will let him go." A complacent smile hung on his elderly face as he stared arrogantly at Yun Luofeng. Indeed, upon hearing the old man's words, Yun Luofeng, who had been slowly approaching him, stopped in her tracks and stared deeply at him. The old man burst into laughter. "So what if you've won? In the end, don't you still have to listen to my orders? I'll give you one chance. Kneel before me and I will immediately return Zhonglinger to you." To him, he no longer cared about face. He only wanted to humiliate the young girl before him to quell the anger in his heart. Yun Luofeng did not speak and stared at him silently. Her dark eyes were calm and without the slightest ripple of emotion. No one could tell what she was thinking. "What do you think? Isn't this a good deal? All you need to do is kowtow a few times and you'll get a life back. No matter how you look at it, you've made a profit." Upon hearing the old man's words, the young girl's brows finally moved. She slowly raised her hand and with a whoosh, a long sword appeared out of thin air and charged towards the old man. The old man's reaction was relatively quick and he quickly moved his body to the side, narrowly dodging the attack. Even so, his shoulder was still cut by the long sword and fresh blood flowed out. "Yun Luofeng, it seems that you really don't care about Zhonglinger's life. Since that's the case, just you wait to collect her corpse." The old man spat viciously. However, just as he finished speaking, Yun Luofeng flicked her finger and a black pill shot out from her fingertip. Just as the old man was about to close his mouth, it shot into it. Caught off guard, the old man swallowed a mouthful of saliva and swallowed the black pill as well. "You've plotted against me." The old man's expression changed and he roared angrily. Yun Luofeng gently raised his brows and stared at the old man's furious face with a forced smile. Her gaze completely angered the old man. He coldly snorted and said, "Fine, since you insist on acting recklessly, then I will immediately send out the signal flare. After seeing my signal flare, the people from the Tian family will immediately kill Zhonglinger." After saying that, the old man's gaze shifted. "However, I have always been magnanimous. If you give me the antidote and kowtow to me, I will still let her go." Let Zhonglinger off? How could this be? If it weren't for that lowly girl, Yun Luofeng wouldn't have been attracted here. Therefore, after humiliating Yun Luofeng, he would immediately send someone to kill Zhonglinger. Yun Luofeng glanced at the old man and said indifferently, "What I just gave you is the body-tearing and bone-shattering pill. After taking this pill, I will make you taste the feeling of having your body torn to pieces. Even if you can endure this pain, it doesn't matter. I can make your soul scatter." At this point, the girl paused and continued, "Exchanging your soul for Zhonglinger's life is not a loss for her." "What do you mean by a threat?" Yun Luofeng had used it to the point of perfection. "You want to kill Zhonglinger? Sure. If she loses her life, she still has the chance to be reincarnated. However, I won't even give you this chance. This way, Zhonglinger would not be at a loss." Chapter 528. The old man's eyes finally revealed a look of horror. He couldn't help but take a few steps back as he looked at Yun Luofeng with an ugly expression. Are you trying to scare me? Yun Luofeng raised the corner of his lips. Whether I'm trying to scare you or not, you'll know soon enough. After the young girl finished speaking, the old man's body suddenly felt a sharp pain. The pain was like a stone slab constantly rubbing against his body. It was so painful that he couldn't extricate himself. At the same time, a dark green flame appeared around him. This flame burned his body to the point that even his soul felt like it was being torn apart. Soul fire. It was actually soul fire. Just how powerful was this young girl's soul? Even the soul fire could be mobilized. He believed that if this continued, his soul would definitely scatter and he would never be able to reincarnate. Stop, quickly stop. The old man cried out mournfully. I promise you, I'll return Zhonglinger to you. Quickly stop. Why should I believe you? Yun Luofeng's eyebrows slightly raised. Send someone to bring Long Fei to find Zhonglinger. After I see Zhonglinger, I'll decide your life and death. If she's even the slightest bit injured, I'll let you experience the feeling of your soul scattering. The old man's heart suddenly became anxious. He secretly prayed that Zhonglinger's father didn't use any torture on her. Otherwise, he was afraid that his soul would really scatter and scatter. Tianxian. The old man gritted his teeth. Bring him to Tianzhu's residence. Yes, father. Tianxian's eyes were gloomy. Seeing his own father suffer a crushing defeat at the hands of Yun Luofeng, he didn't dare to have any thoughts of resistance. He could only bring Long Fei inside the door. With Tianxian's lead, those traps were nothing. Long Fei very smoothly entered the Tian family's residence. At this time, in a remote courtyard, Tianzhu was holding a stick in his hand and fiercely hitting the young girl's snow-white skin. The young girl's clothes had already been torn to pieces. Her messy hair fell behind her. Her body was full of shocking stick marks. Her pale face was overflowing with beads of sweat. She bit her bloodless lips and welcomed Tianzhu's staff without making a sound. Rebellious girl, I regretted letting your mother give birth to a rebellious girl like you. You're going to drive me crazy. Tianzhu fiercely scolded Zhonglinger, as if he wanted to vent all the humiliation he had suffered outside on her. If you obediently listen to the patriarch, I will also rise with you, and I won't have to be bullied by those direct descendants. Let me tell you, you are my daughter. Without me, there would be no you. Whatever I tell you to do, you must do it. You are not allowed to disobey. Zhonglinger sneered and closed her eyes. Her pale face showed that she was not afraid of death. She will never listen to the order of the Tian family. In this life, the only one who could make her submit was Yun Luofeng alone. Seeing Zhonglinger's stubborn look, Tianzhu became even angrier. He scooped up some salt water and poured it on Zhonglinger. The salt water seeped into her damaged skin, causing her to feel a sharp pain. She gasped in pain, and her petite body trembled. Zhonglinger, if you want to join the Tian family's genealogy, then go and seduce young Master Tianyu. Tianyu was the #1 person in the younger generation of the Tian family. He was also the patriarch's grandson. Therefore, Tianzhu asked Zhonglinger to seduce Tianyu. Chapter 529. I've already said that I have no interest in your Tian family. I also don't want to change my surname to Tian. Zhonglinger suddenly opened her eyes and angrily turned around to stare coldly at Tianzhu. You're courting death. Hearing this, Tianzhu became even angrier. He swung his rod down and with a bang, a bright red mark was left on Zhonglinger's back. Zhonglinger spat out a mouthful of blood. Her internal organs felt a sharp pain. She sneered and said, No matter how you hit me, I will not listen to you. Impudent. Zhonglinger, if it wasn't for your looks, I wouldn't have let you seduce young Master Tianyu. With your identity, to be young Master Tianyu's concubine, you really have to burn incense. Zhonglinger sneered in her heart and retorted, If I follow Master, I can be a legitimate wife. But if I enter the Tian family, I can only be a concubine? Wife and concubine, it is clear who is more valuable. I really don't know if I should call you stupid or stupid. Being a concubine of a noble young master is better than being a servant's wife. Don't you understand this? I, Zhonglinger, would rather be a poor man's wife than a rich man's concubine. I don't need to live a luxurious life, I just don't need to worry about food and clothing. Zhonglinger supported her body and stood up. Her body was a bit shaky as she leaned against the ancient tree behind her. Her bright eyes were filled with determination. In life, to be able to grow old together with one person is far better than living a luxurious life. Long Fei had just arrived when he heard Zhonglinger's words. Even though her voice was very weak, in Long Fei's ears, it was as clear as an aureole. It was extremely beautiful. Better to be a poor man's wife than a rich man's concubine. On this continent where the strong preyed on the weak, how many people would have such a noble character? Therefore, Zhonglinger's words made Long Fei involuntarily feel admiration for this stubborn girl. Just as he was about to speak, he suddenly saw Zhonglinger's body fall to the ground. He was stunned for a moment. Without thinking, he quickly rushed forward and caught the delicate body that was about to fall. Zhonglinger's eyelashes trembled. Her expression was weak. Her body was covered with crisscross scars, making her look extremely weak. Long Fei's heart faintly ignited with anger. His cold eyes turned to Tianzhu. "For you." When Tianzhu saw Long Fei appear, he couldn't help but frown. "Don't you know that this is the Tian family? How dare you barge in without permission?" Long Fei sneered. He picked up Zhonglinger's body and coldly said, "She is your daughter. Not only did you not raise her for a day, you even tormented her like this. What is the difference between a person like you and a beast?" On the way to the Tian family, Qing Yan and the rest had told Long Fei about the purpose of their trip. As such, Long Fei was well aware of the relationship between Zhonglinger and the Tian family. Even if Tianzhu didn't like Zhonglinger, her body still had his blood. How could he bear to treat her like this? "She is my daughter. If I want to beat her, I will beat her. If I want to kill her, I will kill her. Who do you think you are? What right do you have to interfere in my business? Since I gave her life, then no matter how I treat her, she is not allowed to resist." Long Fei hugged Zhonglinger's body tightly and coldly looked at Tianzhu. "I'm afraid you can't decide this woman's life. Plus, don't count on the Tian family to save you. Right now, they can't even protect themselves." What? Tianzhu was stunned for a moment. He didn't understand what Long Fei meant. The other party's fist landed on his body and blasted him away. Chapter 530. Pucci. Tianzhu spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground with a pale face. Then, Long Fei took a large step forward, grabbed his clothes, and quickly walked out of the courtyard. Outside the mountain gate, it was silent. It was so quiet that even the sound of the wind could be heard clearly. Yun Luofeng crossed his arms and leaned against a tree. He quietly listened to the mournful wails of the old man. The Tian family elder did not dare to say a word, afraid that Yun Luofeng's gaze would be attracted to him and he would suffer the same punishment as the patriarch. At this moment, the mountain gate was once again opened. Long Fei, who was holding Zhonglinger in one hand and Tianzhu in the other, suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Yun Luofeng's face turned cold with Long Fei's appearance. His body surged with a cold aura and his black eyes revealed a cold, murderous intent. "It's over." After seeing Zhonglinger's body full of scars, the old man's heart suddenly sank. His face was slightly frightened and he secretly cursed Tianzhu in his heart. This son of a bitch, he actually beat Zhonglinger up like this? If it was a normal day, it would be fine. But now, Zhonglinger's life was related to his. According to Yun Luofeng, if Zhonglinger was even the slightest bit injured, his soul would fly away and scatter. "Patriarch, elder, save me." Tianzhu saw the old man trapped in the flames. He did not know what had happened and hurriedly cried out. But before he could finish speaking, a snow-white figure swiftly tore through the horizon and appeared before him. The young girl did not look at him. She quickly took out a spirit herb from her sleeve and handed it to Long Fei. "Feed it to her." Long Fei was stunned. "How do you feed it?" "Chew it." After the young girl finished speaking, Long Fei's face became very embarrassed. However, he still took the spirit herb from Yun Luofeng and slowly chewed it. After handing the spirit herb to Long Fei, Yun Luofeng's gaze gradually turned to Tianzhu. He slightly raised his eyebrows. Her injuries were caused by you? From beginning to end, Tianzhu did not think that he was wrong. Zhong Linger's life was given by him. So what if he took it back? What right did these people have to be nosy? So what if I did it? She is my daughter. Bang! Without waiting for Tianzhu to finish his sentence, Yun Luofeng grabbed his clothes tightly and ruthlessly smashed him down from above. Tianzhu's buttocks were split in half, and his internal organs were in pain. He was a little angry and wanted to say something, but he was interrupted by the girl's arrogant voice. I have said this before. If she has any trace of injury, I will kill a member of the Tian family. Now that she was seriously injured, she could only bury the entire Tian family with her. And now, let's start with you. As if sensing the girl's strong murderous intent, Tianzhu finally felt fear. He clutched his aching chest and said, Master, he won't let you have your way. Yun Luofeng sneered, he's just a loser. His soul will scatter very soon. It was only then that Tianzhu saw the old man's face, which was almost distorted by the flames. His heart suddenly trembled. As the patriarch of an intermediate celestial spirit being, he was defeated by this young girl? How was this possible? Master, Long Fei looked at Yun Luofeng and said, when I went to save her just now, I saw a basin of salt water in the courtyard. Zhong Linger's body also smelled of salt, so I boldly guessed that this beast must have beaten Zhong Linger and used the salt water to torture her. Chapter 5:31. As soon as Long Fei finished speaking, a cold aura came from the soles of Tianzhu's feet and penetrated into his heart. It was so cold that his entire body shivered. He looked up in horror at the girl with cold eyes in front of him. Qin Yan Yiling. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows slightly and ordered in a cold voice, I want him to pay back double for how he treated Zhong Linger. You will handle this matter. It was too easy for this kind of person who was worse than a beast. She would never let him die so easily. Yes, miss. Qin Yan and Yi Ling understood Yun Luofeng's meaning. They cupped their fists and walked towards Tianzhu, who was lying on the ground. Don't come over. When Tianzhu saw Yun Luofeng approaching him, the horror in his eyes intensified. He was just about to call for help when Qin Yan leaped and landed a foot on Tianzhu's body. Tianzhu almost vomited blood from her foot and his face was deathly pale. But this was not enough. Just as Tianzhu's heart was trembling more and more, Qin Yan took out a dagger from somewhere and placed it on Tianzhu's face. She smiled sinisterly and said, Master, where do you think I should start? Should he cut off his nose or his ears first? That's right, there's also salt water. Yi Lung, help me prepare the salt water. This fellow had tortured Zhong Linger to such a state. She would make her beg for life, but she would not be able to die. Yi Lung looked at Qin Yan lovingly and turned to walk in front of Tianxian. His cold eyes flashed coldly as he said, if you don't want to end up like him, prepare a basin of salt water for me in half an incense stick's time. Tianxian was startled. He looked at Tianzhu, who was being stepped on by Qin Yan, and finally made up his mind to walk towards the mountain gate. Tianzhu's heart turned completely cold. He did not know what had happened that the young master would listen to these people's orders. Half an incense stick's time is about right. Qin Yan narrowed her eyes and looked at Tianzhu with a smile. I think it's better to cut off your hand first. I wonder which hand did you use to hurt Zhong Linger? Qin Yan had been by Yun Luofeng's side for the longest time, so she had learned some of the young girl's ruthlessness. Her delicate face was full of smiles, her curved eyes were like crescent moons, bright and moving. But it was from the mouth of this seemingly harmless little servant girl that such cruel words came out of her mouth. Tianzhu was so scared that his face turned pale. He didn't dare to speak, but his trembling body revealed the fear in his heart. Since you won't tell me, I'll chop off both of your arms. The dagger in Qin Yan's hand gradually moved to Tianzhu's arm. The smile on her face became increasingly cruel. No! Tianzhu's eyes widened in horror. Just as he shouted, the dagger in Qin Yan's hand fell. Although the dagger was small, it was very sharp. In an instant, the man's arm was chopped off. Fresh blood splattered and dyed Qin Yan's clothes red. Tianzhu, on the other hand, fainted on the spot from the intense pain. Enough! The old man, who was trapped in the fire of the soul, could not stand it anymore. He shouted and said with a trembling voice, "Yun Luofeng, even if Tianzhu is wrong, don't you think that your servant girl is too ruthless? He only used a stick to hit Zhonglinger, but your servant girl chopped off one of his arms. Such a cruel and merciless person is not fit to be called a woman." Yun Luofeng curled his lips slightly. "If I hadn't come to find her, I don't know how your Tian family would have mistreated her. So, I won't have any mercy for the people of the Tian family. How you hurt her, I'll make you pay 100-fold. Chapter 5:32. The elder immediately fell silent. He knew that Yun Luofeng was telling the truth. If she had not come to save Zhonglinger, based on Tianzhu's cruel nature, Zhonglinger's fate would not have been any better. Therefore, he could only sigh helplessly as despair gradually appeared in his eyes. At this moment, Tianxian had already brought a basin of salt water to Yilang. His face was ashen as he placed the basin of salt water down before snorting and returning to the Tian family's group. Qing Yan scooped up a basin of salt water and poured it over Tianzhu's broken arm. The sharp pain woke Tianzhu up instantly. He looked at Qing Yan, who was smiling like a demon, and his face turned pale. I beg you, let me go." His voice was hoarse and his eyes were pleading. It was only at this moment that he finally understood the meaning of fear. "Let you go?" Qing Yan giggled. "Then, did you want to let Zhonglinger go at that time?" Tianzhu opened his mouth but his throat was dry. He knew that he had indeed failed miserably this time. "Since you had no intention of letting Zhonglinger go back then, why should I let you go?" Qing Yan raised her chin and looked down at Tianzhu condescendingly. Tianzhu closed his eyes in despair. At this moment he wished that he could pass out again. It would be better than facing these demons. There's no need for the Tian family to remain. Yun Luofeng's casual words had already determined the fate of the Tian family. Yun Luofeng. Tianxian's expression changed drastically as he roared angrily, "I admit that your talent is not bad. You're also very strong. However, the person behind the Tian family is Tianya. Tianya has long reached the realm above the celestial spirit realm. It's fine if you only wanted to punish the Tian family a little, but now, you want to destroy the Tian family. Do you think that Tianya will allow your actions?" In any case, the Tian family was Tianya's family and his father was Tianya's younger brother. No matter how heartless he was towards the Tian family, it was impossible for him to sit and watch as the Tian family was destroyed. This was where Tianxian's confidence came from. Yun Luofeng's evil eyes swept towards Tianxian. "A few decades ago, Tianya became famous at a young age. Your Tian family had placed great hopes on him, but Tianya fell in love with a woman who was not recognized by the Tian family. Because of this, you did not hesitate to frame him and unrighteousness, causing two people who love each other to be separated. If I didn't guess incorrectly, Tianya already hates your Tian family to the bone. Why would he continue to help you?" Tianxian's expression changed abruptly as he clenched his fists tightly. His ashen face was shrouded in a monstrous rage. "Who are you?" The old man, who was surrounded by flames, raised his head to look at Yun Luofeng. His elderly features were almost twisted as he stared fixedly at her. "You can't possibly know about this." The reason why Tianya had left the Tian family back then, other than a few higher-ups of the Tian family, only the heads of some powerful factions could inquire about this information. Even the disciples of the Tian family couldn't understand it. Thus, over the years, the disciples of the Tian family had used Tianya's famous doctors to act like a tyrant. But now, a mere granddaughter of a general of Long Yuan country actually knew about the secrets of the Tian family? This made the old man suspect her identity. "Hee, little girl, you're missing something." Suddenly, an old voice rang out from the void. Then, under everyone's gaze, an old man in white stepped through the void and slowly walked over. Chapter 5:33. Looking at the little old man who appeared out of thin air, everyone from the Tian family was stunned. They didn't think that Tianya, who hadn't returned for a long time, would appear here. Then, a sense of joy emerged in their hearts. Tianya was here, They were saved. The little old man was dragging a cute little girl in his arms. This little girl had clearly fainted in the air, foaming at the mouth and rolling her eyes. Suddenly, she seemed to have felt something and slowly opened her eyes. Her body flew towards Yun Luofeng. Master, Tunya, this bad guy, flew so fast that I feel like I'm seeing stars and my limbs are weak, Lin Ruobai pouted and said. However, her words stunned everyone present. The little girl that Xianxia brought was actually Yun Luofeng's disciple? Then what was the relationship between Yun Luofeng and Xianxia? Instantly, a bad feeling surged into their hearts, making them tense up. You're here? Yun Luofeng curled his lips slightly and turned to Xianxia. You said that I missed something. I wonder what you're talking about. The little old man looked at the Tian family's leader and said mockingly, This is all because of my good brother. Back then, I left the Tian family in a fit of rage. They were afraid that my talent would be used by others, so they didn't hesitate to send experts to hunt me down. Luckily, I was tough and didn't die in their hands. Instead, I achieved what I have today. When the old man, who was surrounded by spirit flames, heard Xianxia's words, his expression changed instantly. Xianxia, what nonsense are you spouting? We're blood relatives, and the Tian family is also your family. Why would they hunt you down? The person who wants to kill you is that woman, Fu Sheng. Bullshit. Hearing the old man's words, Long Fei flew into a rage. After saying that, he suddenly came to his senses and realized that his reaction was a little too extreme. He hurriedly steadied his mind and said in a cold voice, Everyone knows what kind of conduct your Tian family has. Now, you dare to push the blame and accuse an innocent woman. Unfortunately, no one will believe your words. These bastards actually dared to say that his master wanted to kill Xianxia. How was that possible? Since leaving the Tian family that year, his master had gone to that place and hadn't left for decades. On the other hand, he was lucky enough to enter that place because he was injured, and he was fortunate enough to be saved by his master. Moreover, he was taken as a disciple by his master, and that was how he found out about his master's past. Now that they saw that master had been missing for so many years, they naturally framed him. These shameless people deserve to die. Xianxia did not hear anything strange from Long Fei's words. As a result, he did not even glance at him. Instead, he stared coldly at the old man with a gaze filled with ridicule. You think I'm so stupid that I don't even know who's after me? Tianyi, do you think you're too powerful, or do you think I'm stupid? Tianyi's entire body was trembling from the burning of the soul flame. Now that he heard Xianxia's words, his trembling grew even more intense. I remember that all of you had a part in hunting me down back then. Xianxia turned to the elders of the Tian family. Murderous intent surged out as he said coldly, What's funny is that all of you thought that I didn't know anything and even dared to use my name to commit crimes. If I hadn't spent all my time looking for Fu Sheng, the Tian family would have long ceased to exist. Chapter 5:34. A hint of despair appeared in the depths of Tianyi's eyes. Since you said that the reason why you haven't made a move against our Tian family all these years is because you've spent all your time searching for Fu Sheng, why have you come to our Tian family now? Because. Xianxia curled the corners of his lips. I heard that the Tian family had captured Yun Luofeng's maidservant, so I'm only here to help her get her back and to settle the score with the Tian family. Tianyi lifted his head and stared at Xianxia in astonishment. The despair in his eyes turned into shock. Xianxia had meant to say that he was very busy and had no time to settle the score with the Tian family. Yet now, for the sake of Yun Luofeng, he was willing to put aside everything at hand and come to help her vent her anger. Just how close must their relationship be for Xianxia to make such a decision? The others turned towards Yun Luofeng as well. Their expressions were just short of asking her what was her relationship with Xianxia. Uncle Xianxia, Tianxian spoke in a daze, asking the question that everyone wanted to ask, who is this woman to you? Logically speaking, based on Xianxia's status, he should not have any relationship with someone with Yun Luofeng's background. However, just as everyone was feeling anxious, Lin Ruobai spoke up, Junior brother Xianxia, hurry up and get rid of these people. They're really an eyesore. Junior brother Xianxia? Everyone's bodies stiffened on the spot. especially Xianxia who had mocked Yun Luofeng. His face turned pale and he wished that he could faint right away. That would be better than facing such shocking news. Tianya. Tianyi was not as shocked as the others. He flew into a rage and said angrily, "Although this woman is quite talented, she's only a heavenly spirit warrior. Your powers far surpass hers. Coupled with your superb medical skills, what right does she have to be your master?" After saying this, Tianyi took a deep breath. His face became even more twisted. "I know that you hate the Tian family. However, there's no need for you to use your entire life to anger the Tian family. It's not too late for you to back out now. As long as you return to the Tian family, we can join forces and restore the Tian family to its former glory." Tianyi's expression gradually softened as he tried to persuade Tianya. He wanted to use his words to pull Tianya back to the Tian family. Unfortunately, Tianya completely ignored Tianyi's words. He turned towards Lin Ruobai with a grin and said, "Little Bai, I feel very comfortable hearing you call me junior brother. Don't worry, I may not have any other abilities, but I'm very good at being shameless. If that Yun girl doesn't accept me as her disciple, I'll keep pestering her until she agrees." Long Fei's eyes widened in surprise, his face full of disbelief. This was the man her master liked? He was actually so shameless. However, when the others heard these words, their feelings were completely different from Long Fei's. One needs to know how much effort the Tian family had put in to find Tianya? But Tianya was indifferent to them. Who would have thought that the arrogant Tianya would actually shamelessly want to take a young girl as his master? And that girl rejected him? If this matter were to spread out, it would definitely shock the entire continent. "You're not allowed to call me little girl in the future." Lin Ruobai placed her hands on her hips, staring at him with her big bright eyes as she said, "You must respectfully address me as senior sister. Otherwise, I will badmouth you in front of master so that she will never accept you as her disciple for the rest of her life." "All right," the little old man smiled in a flattering manner, "whatever you say." In order to have Yun Luofeng as his master, he had obviously thrown all caution to the wind. Chapter 5:35. The faces of everyone in the Tian family turned ugly. A few decades ago, Tianya went against the order of the Tian family and insisted on taking that woman of unknown origin as his wife. A few decades later, he also ignored the life and death of the Tian family and recognized Yun Luofeng as his master. Don't you all want to know why I, an old man, would rather give up my face and become Yun Luofeng's disciple? Tianya finally felt the eyes of everyone in the Tian family and looked at them coldly. "That's because this girl saved a patient that even I couldn't do anything about. Her medical skills are much better than mine. I won't lose out if I recognize her as my master." Boom! Like a bolt from the blue, it smashed everyone in the Tian family. Everyone's heart trembled, and their pale faces were filled with shock. Yun Luofeng's medical skills were better than Tianya's? Oh my god! What kind of powerful enemy did the Tian family offend this time? Tianxian's face was once again filled with despair. He took a few steps back, and with a bang, he sat down on the spikes on the ground. However, he didn't feel the slightest bit of pain. His trembling body revealed the impact he had received. Tianya sneered and turned his gaze to Tianzhu, who was lying on the ground. He raised his eyes slightly. "On the way here, I have already asked around. You are the one who captured my little master's maid. And that maid is your daughter. Originally, you had a way to join the big ship. This is a path that many people can't even dream of, but you gave it up yourself." Tianzhu rolled his eyes and fainted again. How could Qing Yan give him this chance? A ladle of salt water woke him up. When he woke up, he heard Qing Yan's mocking voice. "You can continue to faint. I don't mind waking you up again. It's just that the way I wake you up is a bit rough. I hope you can bear it." With such a threat, how could Tianzhu dare to continue fainting? His heart was filled with regret. If he knew that Yun Luofeng had such strength, he wouldn't have treated Zhong Linger like this. Otherwise, he might have been able to use Zhong Linger to rise. The more Tianzhu thought about it, the more he regretted. Unfortunately, no matter how much he regretted it, it was useless. Hee hee. Suddenly Tianyi sneered. His laughter was low and hoarse. like sharp claws rubbing against a wooden board. Xianxia, do you really think that our Tian family can remain standing for so many years without any reason? Tian Yi's fear gradually disappeared from his elderly face as he stared at Xianxia in disdain. Unfortunately, you're not the master of the Tian family. There are some things that you have no right to know. Xianxia narrowed his eyes as a cold gleam flashed across his eyes. What do you mean by that? What do you mean? Ha! Tian Yi laughed maniacally. His old face was terrifyingly twisted and his eyes were bloodshot. Tanya Yun Luofeng. If I die here today, all of you will be buried with me. As the spirit fire burned, Tian Yi felt his soul becoming increasingly weak as if it would disappear at any time. However, he no longer looked as terrified as he had in the past. As long as he thought about how these people would be buried with him, his heart was filled with excitement. Tian Yi took out a dagger from somewhere and cut his finger, allowing the blood to drip onto the ground. Then, his deep voice rang out slowly under the afternoon sky. Chapter 5:36. The Tian family's clan head, Tian Yi, sincerely requests for the elders to come and assist us. Ancestral elder? Everyone from the Tian family was stunned and looked at Tian Yi in confusion. Obviously, they didn't know what he was talking about. After all, there are some things that only the clan head has the qualification to touch. Even the young clan head, Tian Xian, didn't have the qualification. Where did this little brat come from? How dare you cause trouble in my Tian family? Boom! A loud roar came from the sky and went straight into one's soul. It was as if a heavy hammer had struck one's soul, causing it to tremble. Those with weaker strength spurted out a mouthful of blood as their faces turned pale. Tianya's face suddenly became extremely serious. His cold gaze was directed at the sky. At that moment, his chest was undulating and his aura became colder. In the sky, several old men stood with their hands behind their back, looking down at the crowd below with arrogance. However, these old men's bodies were very transparent as they swayed with the wind. It's you guys. Tianya's body was filled with anger as he clenched his fists tightly. I never expected the Tian family to have a secret technique that could allow your soul to be preserved. Plus, you can still fight. Just as Tianya's voice fell, Yun Luofeng, who was originally silent, had already walked to his side. At this moment, the young lady's eyes were solemn. If I didn't guess incorrectly, the Tian family did use some secret technique to allow their soul to remain. However, they can only come out once. In other words, the Tian family can only borrow the power of those who have passed away once. This is also the reason why they didn't use so many strong espers and still needed to think of a way to let you return to the Tian family. Yun Luofeng's lips curled up as he continued. Thus, only when the Tian family is in danger will the Tian family's clan head summon these people out. Plus, once they leave the place where their soul is preserved for a certain period of time, their soul will scatter. In other words, these people gave up the chance to reincarnate and chose to stay in the Tian family in order to save the Tian family when the Tian family is in danger of being exterminated. One couldn't deny that Yun Luofeng admired the efforts of these strong espers. Because there were so many strong espers who used this method to stay, the Tian family was able to stand tall for so many years. Little master, how do you know so clearly? Tianya looked at Yun Luofeng in astonishment. Hearing how Tianya addressed him, Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows slightly. You're still calling me the same as before. I really can't afford to be called Little Master. This old man was already so old. How could she not feel awkward being called Little Master by an old man in his 60s? Tianya shamelessly said, Fine, then I'll still call you Yun Girl. However, I'll definitely pester you until you agree to teach me medicine. However, first tell me, how do you know so much? Yun Luofeng blinked and smiled meaningfully. I guessed. She couldn't possibly tell Tianya that she had little mo, which was why there were so many things in the world that she didn't know. Guessed? The corners of Tianya's lips twitched. He glanced at Tian Yi's ashen face and knew that Yun Luofeng had guessed correctly. These strong espers of the Tian family could only come out once. After a certain period of time, their souls would scatter. In the sky, the old man in the navy blue robe coldly looked down at Tianya. You traitor of the Tian family, you actually have the face to come back. Chapter 537. Why don't I have the face to come back? Xianxia sneered. Don't forget, all these years, it was your Tian family that begged me to come back. Now that I'm back, you treat me with such an attitude? The green-robed old man snorted and said expressionlessly, asking you to come back to the Tian family is because your brother Tian pitied you for being alone. It wasn't our decision. Since you left so decisively that year, you shouldn't have stepped into Heavenly Mountain again. Back then? Once he mentioned this word, Xianxia's eyes became sharper. You still have the face to mention what happened back then? If it wasn't for you old things, how could Fu Xing abandon me? At first, I was worried that I wouldn't be able to take revenge on you guys. Never did I expect that you guys are actually still here. The green-robed old man smiled arrogantly. How can a grain of rice like you compete with the sun and the moon? Xianxia, no matter how outstanding you are now, in our eyes, you're still that grain of rice from a few decades ago. This old man compared Xianxia and the others to grains of rice while the Tian family was the huge sun and moon. As a grain of rice, how could it compete with the sun and moon? Xianxia became increasingly furious in his heart. His slightly narrowed eyes revealed a cold glint. However, he also knew that these few ancestral elders were different from the other members of the Tian family. It was impossible for him to deal with so many people by himself. One needs to know that a few decades ago, these old fellows had already reached the celestial spirit realm. Now that so many years had passed, their strength had become even stronger. And the reason why the Tian family declined previously was related to the death of these old fellows. However, he never expected that these people would use such a method to protect the Tian family. Was it really worth it for their souls to be destroyed? Little Yun, bring your subordinates and Little Bai and leave first. Xianxia's eyes were even colder. Leave these fellows to me. Yun Luofeng turned his head and looked at Xianxia. You alone can deal with so many people? Even if I can't, I can still delay them for a moment. Once you guys leave Heavenly Mountain, I'll go chase after them. Xianxia took a deep breath. His face had never been this serious before. If it was in the past, when he saw these enemies, he would definitely not care about his life and fight them to the death. But now, he had people to consider. Only when Yun Luofeng was safe could he go all out. Otherwise, if Yun Luofeng was here, he would definitely accidentally injure her. Xianxia, you should know of my background. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows, his gaze turning towards Xianxia. I was born into a general's family, and to a general on the battlefield, we will never abandon our comrades. Xianxia was stunned for a moment before he helplessly smiled bitterly. Lass, this is not a battlefield. For me, any place where there is a battle is a battlefield. If I abandon my teammates because of fear, then my old man will definitely give me a good scolding. Yun Luofeng raised the corner of her lips. Her brows were filled with arrogance and defiance. She was like a wild horse that was hard to tame and would not listen to anyone's orders. Xianxia, do you trust me? Just as Xianxia was pondering over his words, Yun Luofeng suddenly said this. Immediately, Xianxia's gaze landed on the young girl. When he saw the confidence on her face, his heart gradually calmed down. Perhaps, this young lady possessed a kind of magical power that caused others to involuntarily trust her. Let's say it. What do you want me to do? Xianxia helplessly shook his head and asked. Chapter 538. Yun Luofeng smiled. If they hadn't died, perhaps I wouldn't have been able to do anything. Unfortunately, they've appeared in the form of souls, and there are many ways to deal with souls. Furthermore, souls are very precious, especially the souls of powerhouses. They can even become nourishment for milk tea. Squeak, squeak. Milk tea seemed to have sensed Yun Luofeng's inner thoughts and called out twice. Her eyes stared unblinkingly at the souls in the sky, and she almost drooled. As a gold-seeking mouse, milk tea not only fed on spiritual medicine but also used the souls of powerhouses to increase her strength. Unfortunately, the souls of powerhouses were as rare as spiritual medicine. That was why there weren't many powerful gold-seeking mice in the world. Yun Luofeng comforted milk tea and smiled. Don't worry, those souls will belong to you in a while. It'll be enough for you to digest for a long time. In the sky, a few elders heard Yun Luofeng's words and their faces sank. They said coldly, "Little girl, don't be too arrogant. Otherwise, you won't have a good ending." Yun Luofeng didn't seem to hear these people's warnings. Her fingers gently stroked Milk Tea's little head and the corners of her lips curled into an evil smile. "When the time comes, do you plan on eating them raw or do you want me to grill them for you? I wonder how roasted souls taste like?" "You." The elder in green robes flew into a rage. "Little girl, you really refuse to mend your ways. You're exactly the same as this traitor of the Tian family. In a while, I'll send you both to hell to accompany each other. Tian Fu, this little girl is obviously delaying us on purpose. She already guessed that we won't be able to show ourselves for long. So, let's not waste time with her and start fighting." Another elder in gray robes glanced at Yun Luofeng and then at Tian Fu, who was dressed in green robes. He frowned as he spoke. Tian Fu took a deep breath. "You're right. These two fellows are delaying us on purpose. I fell into their trap because I was too angry. If that's the case, then let's kill these people now and end this quickly." Swoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, Tian Fu, who was in the sky, charged towards Xianxia. His aura was fierce and he wanted to kill this traitor of the Tian family in one blow. Boom. Xianxia fearlessly stepped forward to block Tian Fu's attack. Suddenly, a powerful force swept out from the two of them, destroying the surrounding trees and causing sand and dust to swirl into the air. Under Tian Fu's ferocious strength, Xianxia took a few steps back and stopped a meter away from Tian Fu. He raised his head to look at Tian Fu, and his expression became even more solemn. "Xianxia, it's been so many years. I thought you were very powerful, but it turns out that you're only SOSO. Ha." Tian Fu madly laughed twice. "If you could obediently listen to our Tian family and marry the woman we prepared for you, how could there be so many troubles? Therefore, you brought all of this upon yourself. Who asked you to disobey our Tian family's order?" As he said those words, Tian Fu unleashed a barrage of attacks at Xianxia. In the beginning, Xianxia was still fleeing in a somewhat miserable manner. However, it didn't take long for him to adapt to Tian Fu's attacks and gradually adapt to them. When the others saw that Tian Fu was unable to restrain Xianxia on his own, they also charged forward, intending to finish off this old man as quickly as possible. Everyone's eyes were focused on the two sides of the battle. However, no one noticed that a jade-carved baby had suddenly appeared out of thin air beside Yun Luofeng. Chapter 539. "Master, after so many years, this is the only formation I've learned. I didn't expect it to come in handy here." Little Mo squatted down and placed the stones on the ground. Wiping the sweat off her forehead, she stood up. "However, this formation of mine can only imprison souls. It can't destroy them. Inject your soul flame into the formation. Very soon, these souls will be destroyed." Yun Luofeng had mentioned earlier that if these experts from the Tian family were to come out with their physical bodies, she wouldn't be able to do anything. But who asked them to be a group of soul bodies? To a soul body, the soul flame is their nemesis. Although these people were strong, they no longer had the protection of their physical bodies. Thus, they couldn't do anything to the soul flame. If they had a physical body, with their strength, the soul flame would be destroyed before it could pass through their body. Bang! Tian Fu's palm landed on Xianxia's body. In an instant, Xianxia's body flew out and fell into the formation. Even though these elders of the Tian family had noticed little Mo, who was playing with the stones on the ground, since little Mo was just a kid, they didn't pay much attention to her. From their point of view, they had absolute strength. Yun Luofeng wouldn't be able to create any waves. Unfortunately, Tian Fu and the others didn't pay much attention to the people around Yun Luofeng. Thus, they didn't know that little Mo appeared out of thin air and thought that she had been on Tianshan since the beginning. If he had noticed little Mo appearing out of thin air, perhaps he wouldn't have been so arrogant. "Xianxia, your strength alone can't deal with so many people from the Tian family." Tian Fu laughed out loud and walked into the formation. At the same time, the other elders also walked in and looked at Xianxia mockingly. This is the price you have to pay for disobeying the orders of the Tian family. At this moment, everyone from the Tian family had a glimmer of hope in their eyes. So what if Xianxia was strong? There were so many elders in the Tian family. Would they be afraid of him? Thinking of this, everyone couldn't help but say, "Elders, kill this traitor Xianxia." As a member of the Tian family, not only did he not help the Tian family, but he also wanted to destroy our family with outsiders. That's right. He once fell in love with a woman of unknown origin. Now, he acknowledged a lowly person as his master. This is simply unforgivable. So what if Xianxia acknowledged Yun Luofeng's strength? From their point of view, she was just the eldest daughter of the general's residence. How could her status be compared to the Tian family? Xianxia crawled up from the ground. He clutched his injured chest and coldly said, "Whoever I want to marry has nothing to do with your Tian family. Whoever I want to acknowledge as my master also has nothing to do with it. Since I could escape from the pursuit of the Tian family in the past, I can do the same now." Hearing this, Tian Fu laughed mockingly. "A few decades ago, you left alone. Now you're bringing so many burdens with you. I'd like to see what kind of strength you have to walk out of here." After saying that, killing intent surged out from Tian Fu's body, enveloping Xianxia's body. "All right, it's about time. I don't intend to continue talking nonsense with you. I'll end your lives now." He raised his head arrogantly, looking down at Xianxia from above. Then he raised his hand slightly, and a sharp long sword appeared in his hand, but the moment he took out his sword, there was a loud boom, and a dark green flame rose from the ground, instantly enveloping their bodies. Chapter 540. The pain that pierced straight into their souls caused the ancestral elders and the others to wail mournfully. Their wails were like the howls of wild wolves. They were incomparably ferocious and filled with monstrous rage. "What on earth have you done?" Tian Fu's body trembled uncontrollably as he stared angrily at Yun Luofeng. In the midst of the flames, he felt as if his soul was being torn apart by countless hands. He could not even use his spiritual energy. The complacent faces of the members of the Tian family also stiffened because of this sudden change. Everyone did not understand what had happened, and their eyes were filled with astonishment. "Ancestral elders." Tian Yi's voice was very weak. He looked at Tian Fu and the others who were also trapped in the flames and gritted his teeth. "Hurry and leave that place. Hurry." That's right. This soul fire was different from the one that Tian Yi had endured. The soul fire that Tian Yi had endured only burned around him. However, the soul fire here was burning in an area. As long as they left this area, they would be able to stay away from the soul fire. At the thought of this, Tian Fu hurriedly turned around and wanted to rush out of this place. However, at that moment, there was a loud thud. His head slammed into an invisible wall and his body bounced back. "What's going on?" The other ancestral elders turned pale with fright and raised their hands to touch the air in front of them. There was clearly nothing in front of him, but when he touched it, he felt like he was touching an invisible wall. "No!" Tian Fu screamed crazily and slammed his head against the wall again. "I want to leave. Let me go." Unsurprisingly, his body bounced back once again and he landed on his butt. Tian Fu's eyes were filled with despair as he felt the pain of his soul being torn apart. Even now, he still did not understand what was happening. Xianxia, who was also in the formation, was equally shocked. He looked at the crazed clan elders in a daze. He could not understand why these people had suddenly gone crazy. There was obviously only air in front of them. Why were these people circling around the air as if they had gone mad? Moreover, the dark green flames surrounding the ancestral elders seemed to have eyes of their own and did not harm him at all. "Xianxia," Tian Fu gritted his teeth. "That woman has locked us in here. You can't leave either. Don't forget we are trapped in the same place." Just as Tian Fu finished speaking, he abruptly realized that Xianxia had already walked towards the invisible wall that had blocked his path. Then, he lifted one leg and carefully extended it in front of him. A miracle had happened. Xianxia's foot successfully pierced through the invisible wall. Then, his entire body followed suit. Tianfu went completely crazy and said angrily, "This is impossible, how can you get out? I don't believe it. I'm definitely not new." With that, he stood up again and rammed his head into the wall. Just like before, the invisible wall appeared again and bounced him away. Especially at a time like this, Xianxia, this bastard, actually walked into the array from outside. Without waiting for Tianfu to react, he continued to walk out of the array. As he moved forward and backward, he mocked Tianfu and the others. "I came in, I came out. I came in, I came out. Envious? Jealous? Come out and kill me if you have the guts. What's the point of hiding in here?" Chapter 541. Tianfu nearly spat out a mouthful of blood when he saw this old man's shameless face. He pointed angrily at Xianxia and said hatefully, "If you have the ability, stand here and don't move." Hearing this, Xianxia indeed stopped and chuckled. "I'll stand here and not move. Come and hit me if you have the guts." Tianfu was so angry that his eyes were spitting fire. He had clearly told Xianxia to stay in the formation and not move, but this fellow dared to purposely twist his words and stand an inch away from the invisible wall. Tianfu used all his strength to quell the anger in his heart and said coldly, "Xianxia, after so many years, you still haven't changed this shameless habit of yours. Moreover, you clearly know that I can't leave this place. How can I hit you? Stop finding excuses. You're clearly a coward who doesn't dare to come out. What's the point of hiding in here like a turtle?" In terms of the ability to make false accusations, no one could compare to this old man, Xianxia. It was obvious that Tianfu was trapped in the formation and had to endure the burning of the fire of the soul. Now, he was making false accusations and saying that Tianfu had become a turtle because he was timid? Tianfu was so enraged that smoke was rising from the top of his head. He clenched his fist tightly. With a bang, his fist smashed heavily towards Xianxia's chest. However, before his fist could touch Xianxia, it was blocked by an invisible wall and his body was violently sent flying. Seeing this, Xianxia became even more complacent. His old face was filled with a smile that deserved a spanking. "Tianfu, how about this old man's new skill of hitting a cow through the air?" "Hit a cow through the air? Hit your sister's cow." Tianfu's entire body trembled uncontrollably. He pointed at Xianxia as his lips trembled, but he could not speak. Xianxia was probably the only person who could reach this level of shamelessness. He had clearly been bounced back by the invisible wall, but this old man actually took the credit for himself? Did he still have any shame? "Xianxia, you shameless scum." After a long while, Tianfu forcefully squeezed out these few words. Xianxia laughed mockingly. "You're just a loser. What right do you have to humiliate this old man?" "Bullshit. If there wasn't an invisible wall blocking this old man would have torn you into 1,000 pieces long ago." Tianfu couldn't help but curse out loud. He felt as if his soul was burning in flames, as if it would soon be extinguished. After saying that, he turned to Yun Luofeng. "Just who are you?" If he was not wrong, this formation was related to Yun Luofeng. Because he hadn't forgotten that just now, the little boy beside Yun Luofeng had been writing and drawing on the ground, and then a formation had appeared in this place. Instantly, everyone's gaze was on Yun Luofeng. The people of the Tian clan were gritting their teeth in hatred. If it weren't for their fear of Yun Luofeng's strength, they would have killed this woman a long time ago. If not for her, the Tian family wouldn't have fallen to such a degree. Yun Luofeng caressed the little hamster in his sleeve and said without raising his eyebrows, "You don't have the right to know who I am." Her words were arrogant and haughty, and there was a kind of arrogance in them, as if she did not put the world in her eyes. Indeed, just based on the fact that she had caused the Tian family's ancestral elder to be in such a sorry state, it had already proved that she had the right to be arrogant. Tianfu's entire person became dispirited. It was as if he had never thought that the Tian clan would fall in the hands of a young girl. But this young girl was only 15 years old. Chapter 542. He chuckled and closed his eyes. "For the Tian family, I gave up everything. I never expected that I would end up like this. In the future, I will no longer be able to control the Tian family." Tianfu's body became weaker and weaker. His voice was also weak. The other ancestral elders could no longer withstand the power of the soul flame and gradually became transparent. No. Seeing that Tian Fu was about to give up on the Tian family, Tian Yi anxiously shouted, "Ancestral elders, you can't give up on the Tian family. You are so strong, how could the array that Yun Luofeng set up trap you? I know that you must have other abilities. If you give up, the Tian family will really be finished." Tian Fu sighed. "If we were still alive, be it this array or the flame, they would not be able to hurt us. Unfortunately, we are only souls now. What can we do?" His voice was helpless. Even if he wanted to help the Tian family now, he did not have the strength to do so. Tian Yi opened his mouth and wanted to continue persuading him. However, his soul had already been consumed by the soul flame. He could only wait for Tianya's fate. "Tianya," Tian Fu turned his head to look at Tianya, "I hope that you can consider the fact that the Tian family brought you up and let the Tian family live." Even at the very end, he still wanted to make a final struggle. Now, he could only make use of the feelings that Tianya had for the Tian family when he was young. However, facing his pleading voice, Tianya only smiled coldly. "My feelings for the Tian family had already been consumed back then. Of course, I also have to thank your Tian family. If not for your pursuit of me, I would not have been able to grow in such a short period of time." Tian Fu's body trembled and he asked weakly, "Tianya, are you really so heartless? If you really annihilate the Tian family, how will the world view you?" At this moment, Tian Fu had forgotten who was the one who shouted to kill Tianya in the first place. If not for Yun Luofeng, perhaps Tianya would have been buried in the massacre of these people. But now, he was still righteously accusing Tianya of being heartless. "Ha!" Tianya laughed. "So what if the world says that I am heartless? When I, world's edge, do things, I only seek a clear conscience. Why is it that your Tian family can kill me, but I can't destroy your Tian family? Now, other than my surname is Tian, everything else has nothing to do with your Tian family." What did the words of the secular world and the cold eyes of the people have to do with him? Living in this world, one should settle debts of gratitude and enmity, kill those who deserve to be killed, and annihilate clans that deserve to be annihilated. Seeing that Tianya could not be persuaded, Tian Fu turned to Yun Luofeng. "Little girl, even if my Tian family was in the wrong first, isn't your method of revenge a little too ruthless?" The girl finally raised her head slowly. Under the bright sunlight, her eyebrows glowed with a moving radiance. "From now on, the Tian family no longer exists." A simple sentence sentenced the Tian family to death. From now on, the Tian family will no longer exist. As the few of them fought against each other, Tian Yi's soul had already become so weak that it would scatter with the wind. At the last moment, he suddenly laughed maniacally. His laughter was ferocious and resounded through the clouds. "Yun Luofeng, Tianya, you'll never be able to exterminate my Tian family. Because my grandson Tian Yu has gone to a place you can't find. He will definitely take revenge for us." At this moment, Tian Yi was rejoicing in his heart. Luckily Tian Yu was no longer in the Tian family. Otherwise, no one would be able to help him take revenge. Chapter 543. Tian Yu? At the mention of this name, Yun Luofeng's eyes sank and he turned to look at Tianya. "Can you use your forces to find Tian Yu?" "Little girl, leave this matter to me. If we don't remove the roots, there will be trouble in the future. Furthermore, Tian Yu's character is not as impetuous as his grandfather and father. He is very profound. If we let him stay, he will definitely become a huge problem." Tianya was silent for a moment before he replied seriously. At the moment before Tian Yi's soul was destroyed, he heard the conversation between the two of them and the corners of his lips curled up into a sarcastic smile. These two people would definitely not be able to find the place where Tian Yu was headed. When that time comes, he would definitely avenge the entire Tian family when he returns. That way, he would die without any regrets. Bang! The spirit flame dissipated into the air and Tian Yi's body fell heavily to the ground. Even in death, his face still carried a mocking smile and his round eyes were filled with pride. It was as if he had already firmly believed that Yun Luofeng and Tianya would soon fall from this world. At the same time, Tian Fu and the others could not withstand the power of the spirit flame, and their souls turned from transparent to nothingness. In the end, a gentle breeze blew past and they dissipated into the air like green smoke. The rest of the Tian family members revealed looks of horror, and they could not help but retreat. Tian Xian, in particular, was so frightened that he could not speak. His body trembled uncontrollably in the gentle breeze. Tianya did not look at these people anymore and turned his gaze towards Yun Luofeng. "Little girl Yun, leave these people to me. Also, I will inform all the forces under my control to search for Tian Yu's whereabouts. However, there's one thing I need your help with." "What is it?" Yun Luofeng raised an eyebrow and asked. Tianya fell silent for a moment. "I brought Xiaobai away this time for the sake of a medicinal herb. That medicinal herb grows on the other side of the Yellow Springs and is extremely difficult to find. Only with Xiaobai's bloodline as a guide can I find that medicinal herb. I hope that you can bring me to retrieve this medicinal herb." "All right." Yun Luofeng didn't think too much before agreeing. "I wonder what medicinal ingredient you want me to find?" "That stalk of medicinal herb is known as the soul seed. After taking it, it can increase the strength of one's soul. I can see that you possess a soul attack cultivation technique, so this medicinal herb will be a rare tonic for you." "It's just that." The little old man rubbed his palms together and said with a chuckle, "After you obtain the soul seed, just give me half of it." "That's not a problem. However, first tell me, how do I get to the Yellow Springs?" Yun Luofeng smiled as he looked at the old man. "Don't tell me I have to commit suicide first?" Hearing this, the little old man was stunned for a moment. Then he could not help but laugh out loud. "Little girl, the Yellow Springs is a place. Because there are no rules and regulations in that place, they believe in the rule of the fist. Moreover, there are frequent fights between forces, and the number of deaths every day is in the tens of thousands. Thus, it is called the Yellow Springs. Because the previous owner of this body had not gone to learn about the mainland, it was normal that Yun Luofeng did not know about these things. However, if it had been anyone else, if they had committed such a low-level mistake, they would have been so ashamed that they would have found a hole to crawl into. Yun Luofeng was different. Her expression was as calm as a normal person's, as if nothing had happened. "I understand. Wait for my news at the Yun family home. Xiaobai, let's go." Lin Ruabai blinked her eyes. "Master, I wanted to ask you just now, where did you abduct this little boy from? He looks just too adorable." Chapter 544. This time, without waiting for Yun Luofeng to explain, Qin Yan's voice rang out from the side. "He is the son of my lady." Tianya and Lin Ruabai were both dumbfounded at the same time. Yun Luofeng has a son? And this son is so old? Heavens! This is unbelievable. Tianya looked at Yun Luofeng with jealousy. "I'm already half a foot into the grave and I don't even have a wife. You're only 15 and you already have a son this old." Lin Ruabai's eyes lit up and she pinched Xiaomo's cheeks. Her baby face lit up with a bright smile. "Little brother, be good and call me big sister." Xiaomo's face immediately darkened. He was a man who had lived for who knew how many years, yet he was being called little brother by a little girl who still smelled of her mother's milk? And she was even teasing him? Xiaomo slapped Lin Ruabai's hand away and hid behind Yun Luofeng, his hands clutching onto the corner of her clothes. "My face can only be touched by master. Only mother." He had originally wanted Lin Ruabai to give up on ravaging him. Who knew that when she saw his arrogant little face, the light in Lin Ruabai's eyes became even more intense. "Master, I want to marry him." Like a bolt of lightning, little Mo was stunned on the spot. He stared at Lin Ruabai in astonishment and was so shocked that he couldn't even speak. How could there be such a shameless woman in this world? She actually said that she wanted to marry a stranger she had just met? And as a woman, shouldn't she say marry? Why did it become Mary? But master will never agree. Xiaomo's heart calmed down at the thought of this. He proudly raised his cute little face and looked at Lin Ruabai with disdain. Permission granted. Just as Xiaomo was feeling extremely pleased with himself, the young girl slowly uttered these two words. At that moment, Xiaomo's heart broke. 2 lines of crystal-clear tears flowed down his fair little face and his bright eyes were filled with disbelief. He could not believe that master would buy him just like that. Miss, Xianxia could not bear to see this. Little young master is only 5 years old. Shouldn't we wait for him to grow up before deciding? Mother, she's right. Xiaomo immediately returned to her senses. She tightly tugged on the corner of Yun Luofeng's clothes and said aggrievedly, I'm only 5 years old, I'm still a child. The age gap between us is too big, we're not worthy. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows slightly. Being a child bride is not bad. For true love, age is not a problem. You can't be so cruel, you can't push me to this woman. Little Emo almost cried. Her chastity was sold by her master just like that. Furthermore, he looked like a 5-year-old for hundreds of years. It was impossible for him to grow up, so how could he marry a wife? Xiaomo, Yun Luofeng moved closer to Xiaomo's ear as the corners of his lips curled into an evil smile. You've tricked me once, so I'll return the favor. So, from today onwards, you are Xiaobai's wife. No! Xiaomo anxiously hugged Yun Luofeng's thigh with both hands and refused to let go. You can't just leave me like this. Furthermore, I'm a man and she's a woman. Why am I his wife? Aren't you getting it backwards? Yun Luofeng stroked her chin and blinked, because Xiaobai said that he wants to marry you. Naturally, you'll be his wife and she'll be his husband. Chapter 545. Little Emo still wanted to protest, but at that moment, a small hand pulled her down from behind and lifted her into the air. Stupid woman, let go of me. Feeling the aura behind her, little Emo trembled in anger and struggled in Lin Ruobai's hand. Master has already given you to me. Lin Ruobai lifted her chin slightly, the smile on her cute little face becoming even more radiant. So, from now on, you are my wife. Little Mo's entire body became dispirited as she stared at Yun Luofeng with a wronged expression. Her expression was like that of an abandoned puppy, so pitiful that the people around her couldn't help but feel pity for her. Xianxia wanted to bang his head against the wall even more when he saw this scene. His eyes were full of resentment as he said indignantly, "This world is too unfair. Even a 5-year-old child is already engaged. On the contrary, I'm still a virgin." Yun Luofeng glanced at him. With your status in the mainland, you will definitely have many followers. Isn't it easy for you to lose your virginity? I won't. Xianxia raised his chin and said proudly, I want to preserve my virginity for my Fu Sheng. Until I find her. To him, being a virgin was something to be proud of. After all, he was protecting his body and mind for the sake of the woman he loved. In the entire world, how many men would not forget their original intentions? It's getting late. Little Bai, we should leave. Long Fei, bring Zhongling and Qin Yan to the Yun family residence and wait for me. Yun Luofeng smiled evilly as he glanced at Lin Ruobai and Little Emo. As for Little Emo, I'll leave her to you for the rest of the journey. Yes, master. Lin Ruobai straightened his back and responded respectfully. Little Emo, who was in her hands, looked as if the end of the world had arrived. His face was filled with despair. He could already imagine his miserable life in the future. As he watched Yun Luofeng and the others leave, the smile on Xianxia's face gradually disappeared. He sighed softly and muttered to himself, I don't know if it's right or wrong to let the Yun girl go to the Yellow Springs. However, with her intellect and talent, she will definitely be able to make a name for herself there. This would also be a form of training for her. The Yellow Springs was located to the north of the mainland. Because this place was rich in extremely precious medicinal herbs, countless forces had taken root here. On top of that, the resources were limited. Hence, large-scale battles often took place. This was the survival of the fittest. Weaklings could only become stepping stones for others. On the tree-lined mountain path, Yun Luofeng held Lin Ruobai and Little Mo's hands as they walked towards the end of the path. As long as one walked past this mountain path, they would be in Yellow Springs City. But just as she was about to reach the end, the sunlight in front of her was suddenly blocked. A huge shadow appeared in front of her, and she could faintly smell the stench of sweat. Yo, you don't look familiar. You don't look like people from our Yellow Spring City. Do you know the rules of our Yellow Spring City? Whenever a stranger enters the Netherworld City, the women will be played with by us brothers, and the men will have to crawl between our legs. I wonder if you want to start now? Ha! A rough voice came from above Yun Luofeng's head. She raised her head slightly, and her arrogant eyes gradually fell on the two people in front of her. I wonder if there are any other paths?